every night I'm busy. One set, two sets, and I'm feeling so alive. Coffee in the morning, it is the best way to survive. Woke up in the morning, sleepy eyes yawning. Jumped out of bed, started the day, opened the curtains. Felt the cool breeze, the sun shining on my face. But something was missing, I needed my job to chase. Give me coffee in the morning, give me coffee in the morning. Gotta have the coffee, wake me up, shake me up, every night I'm busy. One sip, two sips, and I'm feeling so alive. Coffee in the morning, it is the best way to survive. Woke up in the morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you? Oh, look, everybody. Look, I don't know how many are watching, but thank you, Forrest Nelson. You are my very first channel member. Welcome.
Oh, wow, nice.
He is now a lead investigator. Mm-hmm. That
That's
is so.
awesome.
Yes. So, I haven't talked about it, but I got monetized by YouTube, and that is only thanks to this community. There's no other way. If they didn't tune in, if they didn't watch, if they didn't come back, in all the things that they're doing, that have been supporting you and I, yeah, it happened. And so I thought, well, do I do it or do I not do it? And I thought, well, no, I'm going to do it because maybe it will help grow the channel. There are a little bit of costs to run this thing, but it's not that bad. But we'll see where it goes. We'll see what happens. And I think that there's a lot of opportunities there to do good with. Do you know what I mean? That can come about as well. So welcome Forrest Nelson as the first member. And like I said, if you become a member, we only have one tier. I tried to make it very affordable, nothing fancy yet. You do get to become a lead investigator. And now there is a community members tab on my YouTube channel. And I already have a post set up there for us. So you're going to be the only one that can see it right now. So it's already there waiting on you. But there are a few things I do have already in mind to do for members only, because sometimes, trolls come and go, and we don't mind other views coming into chat and things of that nature. But sometimes there's going to be things we want to discuss or look into further that I feel like members can just come in there and chill together where everything's cool. So I'll go through that a little bit. As to what I want, some ideas I have for that. They'll be members only streams is what they'll be. So I've got plans in the works for that, and that's really the perk, besides being a member and being a lead investigator and I'll be posting more to that community tab for members for exclusive stuff that we're like already talking about, or things of that nature, things coming up for the next stream and whatever Joe and I have going on. So that'll be the place to go to check for any updates that won't be posted, under the regular post section. So, and like I said, there's a couple of things I already have planned out for live streams for us. So I'll get into that later. But this morning, Joe and I are basically officially launching our new morning show. We plan to do this right now a couple times a week at least. We'll be bouncing between my channel and Joe's channel because we're kind of like sister channels. We work together. And Yeah, so that's going to be the gist of it. We're going to try this out, see how it works, do a morning news type show, and kind of touch on whatever's trending, things that we're already covering, case update type stuff. If you guys have any suggestions for what you'd like to see in a morning show, we would love your feedback, right, Joe?
Absolutely. Well, first, congratulations on getting monetized.
Well, thank
Second,
you.
congratulations on your first member. That's awesome.
Yes, it is.
Forest, you rock. This whole community that like it's so great. Like the people we have in chat all the time are amazing. They really are.
They really, really are. And look, um, Forrest, actually, I need to mod you up. I had already asked Forrest and he agreed, but I have not done that yet. I don't stream it. I need to start streaming more. There's goals. I don't usually make New Year's resolutions, but there's goals for 2025. And it's to simply continue to grow the channel with Joe. Joe and I we feel like we have a pretty good thing going. We like streaming together. We like talking and figuring things out if we can, and interacting with our community. And we really appreciate each and every one of you. And Forrest has been with us for quite a while, hasn't he?
Yes, absolutely.
And this guy right here, this is the real OG. This is my man. And I got to keep saying it. I can't help it, Danger. When people were trying to figure out who the professor was over there in the Delphi case, and I mentioned it to Danger within a few hours, we had a list, and he narrowed it down to the one he thought it was, and he was right the entire time. So, way to go again, Danger. I'll always say that. But he's been with me for a very long time. He's an amazing research partner, and he is my only mod right now. And I always appreciated your support from before I was ever streaming. This guy knew I wanted to stream and where I wanted to go with it. So thank you, Danger, for always being there for me and being a source of support for me. And I think Xana would be happy, don't you? So he gets that. So, Joe, how do you feel about the new morning show?
I'm excited. I'm excited. I We could have probably launched it faster if I wasn't struggling with this bug, whatever the heck it is. I think it's
Well,
the vid, but it's the brain fog is the worst part. So we could have
yeah.
launched it sooner if it wasn't for me dragging butt.
Yeah, well, no, you're good. We can't help it when we're tired and feeling under the weather. You're not at your best. You can't stream at your best, and I've been there. Like I've wanted to go live, and I'm like, you know what? Today's just not the day. I'm not feeling it. I'm not feeling me. So, or if I'm not feeling good, that's not I just don't have it in me. So, hello, warning label Nina. Welcome in as well. We appreciate you coming in. This is a pre-kickoff to Joe and I's morning show. What we talk about today, we're going to talk about something that we've been following, but we're going to kind of like have a premiere kickoff type show, if you will, with more of our format for how we're going to try to do this morning thing. Um, in the middle of checking Andrea and LL's transcripts for something, but okay. All right, all eyes. She's on it there this morning, Joe. Um,
She's always on. She's always
I
on
know
it. She's always,
God, I don't know how this girl does it, but you are amazing at what you do, and I'm looking forward to whatever you come up with there. And yeah, I do appreciate her content so much.
that's probably the most frustrating part about this bug, whatever I'm dealing with. And I'm pretty sure it's COVID, although I tested negative yesterday, but it might be the new strain or whatever. But it's the
Mhm.
brain fog because, like, critical analysis is my thing, research is my thing,
Yeah,
and brain fog just gets in the way of all of that.
it really does. I was telling Joe earlier, I have autoimmune disease, and if you get a really bad flare up, it can cause really bad brain fog. Like you don't know what you're doing. And, Joe, I was thinking about that the other day. When my he's 18 now, but he was 17 at the time. I would think sometimes my kid, to me, appeared spacey for no reason. Like not drinking, not on drugs. He's been at home for a week solid. Nothing's going on, but Then when he was diagnosed recently with the autoimmune disease like I have, it made sense. He's having brain fog. Because I would ask him a question and I'd get a slow response or like a confused, I can't think type of thing. But that brain fog is so you can't get past it sometimes, no matter how
Yeah,
hard you think.
it's debilitating.
Yeah, and the
It
harder
can
you
be.
think about it, the worse it gets, I feel like.
Yep.
Well, I hope it continues to improve. We don't need you brain foggy.
No, we don't. The whole world does not need Joe Brain Foggy. That's a bad thing.
No, Joe has plans and stuff, so we need Joe to be better. So yeah,
Yeah,
we all send you
I
healing
actually
vibes.
I was going to go to the Lori Vallow Daybell hearing today, but I just decided, even though I tested negative yesterday, I decided, whatever this is, I don't need to be taking that to court. So we're
Yeah,
just going to have to replay. I think Fox 10 is the local one out here that usually has a camera set up in the courtroom, and I think the reporter is Justin. I don't remember his last name. I follow him on X. So we'll be able to watch the replay later, but I couldn't bring myself to do it today.
yeah. Well, no, that you're good. You're better off to do that. People are not everybody is that responsible. I don't like going out if I'm sick. I don't want to spread the germs. I was that way pre-COVID. You know what I mean? Like back when Ebola was a thing. Like I'd be wiping down the Walmart buggy back then because I didn't want your Ebola. Fuck that. Or excuse me, no, I don't want no part of that. I got monetized. I'm already cussing. But I don't care. Whatever happens, happens. If they take it all away, who cares? But anyway, it's bound to happen. But yeah, I was always the one that already wiping down buggies and stuff. But I don't appreciate nobody bringing it to me, and I don't try to bring it to other people.
I know you're from the South because you call it a buggy.
Yeah, it's
in
a
the
buggy.
in the
It
in
is
the
a
Midwest, it's a shopping
shopping
cart.
cart. Yeah,
Yep.
it is a buggy. Why take two words when I could just say one? Grab me that buggy, youngin'. We need two. There's a lot of y'all. Damn. That'd be my mom in the grocery store with two. Anyway, so yeah, guys, we're going to be touching on things like trending news type stories that come out of Twitter, things we might see here on YouTube, um, case updates on cases that we've been following, that some cases take a while to get to court and there's not a lot happening during them, but there'll be updates in between. Like Crystal Rogers case is one of those cases, which we are still going to do our nighttime streams, and or sometimes they're afternoon, evening, and nighttime, and that's where we'll do our deep dives on particular cases. Joe and I will still be doing that. Joe's been really on the Lori Vallow case for us because that she is coming up on another trial. So we've been going over there to his channel and holding lives on the Lori Vallow case, and we will continue that. Like I said, there's going to be hopefully an update with Fox 10. We can probably get that hearing, Joe, for you to talk about on your live. So we'll still be bringing things like that and doing deep dives into the cases, and if there's topics that come up here that we want to talk about more, then you know what, we'll hold a live and do just that. So, but any suggestions you guys have, going forward, just leave us a comment in the comment section. We'll be reading them. Go ahead, Joe.
I was just going to say, and unfortunately or fortunately, I don't know how you look at it, but Delphi is also going to be a topic for a while, especially since the defense attorneys are making their rounds now.
Yeah, it will, and we haven't yet to go. We neither one have really went live to discuss that. We did go live to do Holman's, and we saw what happened. Joe got struck, but we can go over the interviews that Defense Diaries, in case you guys don't know. We need to drop their link. Let me grab it. The Defense Diaries has been interviewing the defense team in Delphi. They started with Jennifer Auger, right? And then they went to Baldwin. Was it last night? Or
no, Baldwin was 2 nights ago. Yes, Rosie was Rosie part one was last night. Part one. They're going to do another one next week. Yeah.
Oh, are they? Okay, so they did a part one. I know that he was going to go to the ball game. or something.
No, he was watching his so Northern Indiana. Most of Northern Indiana is either a Purdue fan or a Notre Dame fan. Rosie is a Notre Dame
Yeah.
fan.
Yeah.
They played Penn State last night in the semifinals of the college football championship. They came back and won at the end, even though Penn State outplayed them for most of the game. Anyway.
Okay.
But yeah, Rosie is apparently a Notre Dame fan. Maybe that's where he got his law degree. I don't know. I know. So anyway, part one on Defense Diaries last night was just pre-trial stuff. They didn't want to talk about anything about the trial. So that's going to go on next week. That's going to be very, very interesting. Very interesting.
Yeah. And of course, we'll have to do a show and talk about, we're actually going to review something here in just a minute that I do want to talk about. It is another interview that Jennifer Auger and Baldwin did with Box 59's Russ McQuaid. Is that his name? Yeah. And Russ has covered the case forever. He was at the trial. Everybody, feel the way you want to about him. Don't care. I really don't have much thoughts on the man, except, do your job. It's time to be journalist, that kind of thing. But I ran across this morning on YouTube. And so I guess I also know that I feel like I heard there was going to be another interview. They went to social media. What I was glad to see, honestly, was the fact that the defense attorneys went to social media first with their interviews. Then they went to mainstream media. Now, we know Holman did the same thing. He'd come to social media. The people he was complaining about the most needed to come there.
Exactly. The hypocrisy. God.
I guess he thought if he actually came on social media and said what he had to say, we would all go, "Oh, we get it now. Sorry, our bad for talking bad about you," or, questioning your tactics and all the things.
Speaking of that, on Defense Diaries last night, Rosie was talking about good cops and bad cops. And then he mentioned Holman after he mentioned bad cops. And it was like, oh, damn, he did not go there. He didn't call him a bad cop, but it was definitely very much implied. Mm-hmm. It was definitely very much implied. I was like, oh, man, this guy's on fire.
One of the big takeaways that I'm getting, and I noticed it in the Kohberger trial, and I don't know how much it will end up playing a factor, because I always felt like it would play some kind of role, because there were a lot of people talking about emailing the defense and sending things, and I was like, wow, that's interesting. Y'all, the stuff you guys are digging up is being sent to the defense in the Kohberger case. Well, it's exactly what was happening here. And the more you talk, and I saw that again this morning in this interview. It's, to me, the role social media did play, good and bad. And what I mean by bad is the leaked photos stuff and all the controversy that came out of there, all the people who wanted to insert themselves into the cases, make it about them. But then the good is how you get the news out there, you know what I mean? And how social media found stuff that the defense could take a look at. And that's what was happening here as well. And even there, like, I could tell, to me, it seemed like Ann Taylor was really watching social media very early on, because some of the court filings that would come out would reflect what I was seeing happening in social media. Some of the things she'd talk about in her filings. And I thought, well, this is so super interesting. That's when it hit me that this is kind of like a social experiment, because social media is so big now, and this genre is so big on YouTube and all the discussions that come up. But there was a lot of things. So you never know, though, what's going to help and what won't. And he'll talk about that in this interview, how some of it was like just dead ends, right? But some of it, they have to go, wait a minute, and take a further look, right?
Yeah, and I can't remember if it was Andy Baldwin or if it was Rosie that mentioned that they feel like one of the mistakes that they made in their defense of Richard Allen was not paying close enough attention to social media. Like they like off the cuff just ignored it, and then looking
Yeah.
back, would it have helped our case? Possibly. Should we have paid more attention to it? Possibly, which is crazy to me because it's social media. So I'm probably would have been tempted to do the same. Just like, whatever, guys, get out of my face with this. But and that's what they did. And one of them, and I can't remember which one, said that they regret that now. Looking back, they could have paid closer attention to it.
Yeah. It Well, I think they started to, and especially when they got the Frank's memo, they talk about this. Let's watch this piece right here because it, he really explains it pretty well. Present screen would be nice, wouldn't it? Okay, let me get this up here. Okay.
Order has been lifted.
Now, you guys gotta let me know if you can hear it. I got it. I got it up as loud as it'd go. I think. Let me check some things here. Because it didn't sound loud. Okay. And we'll have to stop and commentate because I don't think I'll get a strike from these dudes, but you never know. Everybody's got crabs up their butts lately.
Especially certain content providers.
Let me know if you guys can hear that.
It's rough right now because
it's good. Volume's good.
Rick's case, and we're really nervous. The state has been the law enforcement, particularly Doug Carter and Holman, have been going out and saying a lot of what I would say absurd things, and we weren't. I particularly was kind of advocating, and I think we were all in agreement that perhaps we would not even do any media. That was a consideration until those guys came out and started saying all this stuff. So it's very difficult for us to talk and even answer that question is difficult, I'd say, just because, in the end, we're going to say whatever we're going to say, and we're doing media stuff. But it's nerve wracking because of the way that things have been handled in the past in terms of trying to get us off the case and that kind of stuff. We're kind of peering into the future and concerned that anything we're going to say is going to be used later on.
There's a lot of...
Okay, hold on a second. Lindsay, did you guys hear about Murder Sheet getting the first interview with a juror? No, but that does not surprise me. Did they say when they're going to air that piece? Do you know?
Do we really need to give them publicity? They have enough of their own.
No, but I want to hear what that juror has to say. I have to ignore.
I do too. Yeah.
I have to tune out the interviewers to listen to the interviewee.
Yep. There you go.
Yeah. So but I'm interested to know. Even so are the attorneys. They're about to talk about that. So,
right. And to be fair, I met them in person at the trials and the July, August hearings several times, and I liked meeting them in person. And she's sweet. She looked at my fur baby that had crossed over the Rainbow Bridge by then and was like, "Oh, that's," she gave me sympathy, and she was interested in hearing about him. And they went through the line and talked to people. But I don't follow their content. But I am also interested in hearing what the juror has to say. Absolutely.
Yeah. Lord, of course, it is hard to get past them too sometimes, but we do what we got to do. I've had to listen to a few people that I don't care for because I wanted to hear the interviews that were being done. So
right. Yeah. And like, I will go into chats like GH. I'm not going to say his name out loud. I'll go into his chat, and that chat is so polarized that I immediately get attacked, and all I'm trying to have is an honest, logical discussion.
Yeah.
But this goes back to, I think, what Auger and Andy are talking about in this interview. So I'm very interested to hear what they have to say, because they're talking about somewhat about social media, right? In some of this.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's play this.
Commentary out in social media and news that, how upsetting it was to people that the defense came up with a wild Odinist theme. That did not come from the defense. Brad and Andy did not make that up. That came from the U.S. Marshals Behavioral Analysis Unit. That came from the FBI. There was some validation from a Purdue professor. This all came from the state. This was released in Discovery thanks to Todd Click. But these aren't things we made up. These are law enforcement theories that they inexplicably did not follow up on.
Yeah, and also, I mean, it wasn't just those things. It was also Kevin Murphy's work, who's a former state trooper with an impeccable record. He put out a 12-page report that that we received in Discovery. I was in the office right next door to here, in my office on a Saturday morning when I came upon it, and it had some really mind-blowing things that Murphy had found and reported. And then I don't know that we were ever supposed to get that report, but we got it, and that really led us to a lot of investigation of other people. And when we started to put the pieces together, then the Franks memo happened that kind of exposed all of that that defense. And Carter apparently said that he thought the gag order was violated when we filed the Franks memo. What he doesn't know is it would have been illegal for us to file the Franks memo confidentially. It has to be filed because we're a transparent state. And by the way, the state is the one that asked for the Franks memo. They asked for the Franks memo.
Hold up. Pause that.
And it's all.
Can you rewind that like 15 seconds?
Yep.
Did he just say we're a transparent state?
Yes, you did. He meant we're supposed to be.
Yes, I did. Yeah.
We're a transparent state.
Oops.
Oh, yeah, you got it. No, you nailed it. You nailed it.
Carter apparently said that he thought the gag order was violated when we filed the Franks memo. What he doesn't know is it would have been illegal for us to file the Franks memo confidentially. It has to be filed because we're a transparent state. And by the way, the state is the one that asked for the Franks memo. They asked for the Franks memo, and we gave it to them.
Oh my God. We are not a transparent state.
And it's all
Indiana is not a transparent state.
That it is some kind of crazy story. Please read it. Please read it. I know it's 136 pages and it's long. Part of the reason it's long is because it's footnoted. Everything is backed up. If there's some opinion or...
How many of you in chat have read the Franks motion? You've probably heard of it. You may have seen parts of it, but how many of you have actually read it? Throw a 1 in the chat if you've read it. I'm just curious.
For conjecture, I believe it's identified. This is an opinion right here based upon these facts that are backed up.
Did Judge Gull run and administer this trial in this case to keep out the extraneous issues, to streamline this case to the provable nexus facts, or did she run the case in such a way as that jury could only go to one destination?
That is something I don't feel comfortable saying. I mean, we have great appellate lawyers that have entered their appearance, Stacey Ulian and Mark Lehman, and those are going to be ferreted out through the Court of Appeals. And I don't really want to, certainly Jennifer and I have our opinions on that. And I think, I think read the Franks memo, read it, and that provides some of it. After the Franks memo was filed, there's a lot of other stuff that happened, a lot of other things that we found, a lot of other deposition testimony.
Are you and your client still under Judge Gull's thumb?
I believe we're still counsel of record. The Carroll County rules say that our representative capacity is terminated as of the date of sentencing or final disposition in the case. So, but once our representation...
Oh, hold it.
Finished,
pause it.
So,
Go ahead.
What she just said there
was huge. They asked, "Are you still the counsel of record?" And she said, "According to Carroll County rules, it's at the date of sentencing or final disposition of the case. We are still counsel of record." That is huge. I didn't know that.
Yeah, but the court did approve to appoint 2 appellate attorneys.
Right. That doesn't mean that they're still not counsel of record, though.
Right.
I mean, so
once I'm
is that
assuming
going to have to be Is that going to have to be heard too? Is there going to have to be some kind of motion for who is the quote unquote official counsel of record?
I think what's going to end up happening is when the appellate attorneys got assigned, and I'm assuming that once they get in there and take over, then once that's bound and done, then they will probably be removed as counsel. I don't know, though, if they'll stay on in some capacity, because they can't be lead attorneys on the appeal because they have to be an appellate attorney.
Right, sure.
So you know what I mean? So I don't know if it's just
right.
a matter
So are they co-counsel? Are they still co-counsel? That's the question.
They may be. They may end up being
a big one.
Yeah. So, which would be good because the new appointees will need to be briefed by these people, right? It's one thing to give all that discovery over and then let them start reading it, but all this stuff that they're going to talk about here in a minute, they want put on. They're cleaning up the
Are you serious?
Yeah,
She said goal crossed off Rosie and Baldwin's names off of the order. Off of
today, names off today's
order. But she also terminated. She also terminated them in 2023, and they took it to the Supreme Court and got reappointed. So what Gold does doesn't matter a freaking thing to me.
All eyes. I don't know which document you're talking about or today's order that you're speaking about, but I'll have to, after we watch this, I can go check it on Twitter. That's probably where it's at, right? So I don't know which one she's speaking about. But you know what? Cross out stuff with a pencil or pen all you want, because they're cleaning up the documents. They're going to be taking matters into their own hands and seeing whatever can be done about Gull. They're going to talk about that here. Here, I'm going to let this start up again. Just DM'd it to y'all. Thank you. I'll grab that up in a minute and we'll take a look at it.
Yeah, we definitely need to look at that after this.
Appellate attorneys officially take over. We're bound by the rules of ethics, but there are no court orders binding us at that point.
Why did it take the jury 19 and a half hours to come to a verdict?
I have no idea. I mean, we've been waiting. Normally, by now, somebody would have come out and at least explained some of the process that happened in the jury room. But, it's their absolute right to not say anything, and I respect that. We as lawyers would like to know what they hung their hat on, and especially in light of the fact that we are very hopeful that there's going to be a second trial.
See, I'm wanting to know the same thing. What did they hang their hat on? That's why I want to hear from those jurors as well. What did you see that I couldn't see, that I could only hear about, that led you to your decision?
Well, so this goes back to the polarization of social media, people getting in their camps. All of us that are in this community that are like around Defense Diaries and this group were convinced that it was like 10-2 not guilty to guilty, and those 10 were trying to convince the 2 that he wasn't guilty. Obviously, it was the other way around. Obviously, there were 10 guilty and 1 or 2 or 3 not guilty. And they had to convince that 1 or 2 or 3 to get to a unanimous verdict. And they did. They got there. And it just... I was surprised. I was disappointed, because if I was on that jury, I do not believe the state met their burden of proof. But I wasn't on the jury, and it doesn't matter. The 12 people in that jury room are the only people that matter at this point.
Exactly. And so it's going to be interesting to hear what they have to say. Gotta go rescue them. Okay, Forrest, good luck with that. Go get your car, buddy. Thank you. Thank you again for being my first member. Appreciate you.
That's awesome. I love that.
I think we've done a lot of post-mortem work in our own individual minds over the last 6 weeks. It's very emotional, very tough stuff to kind of go through. What could we have done better? What could we have done differently? And there's a lot of that going on, and I have an idea of what we could do differently. I mean, as a general principle, a kind of a big picture principle. That
his
that
eyes look
require me to
like he
get
has
into the
not
weeds.
slept a lot.
But
His eyes remind me of my eyes
having
right
said
now.
that, I have no idea why the jury took that long.
A quick verdict in a couple hours, which I'm accustomed to in Marion County, usually means this is a slam dunk case. Prosecution did this, so I can look at that and I go, well, prosecution said A, B, C, D. Okay, well, I can see why the jury went there. Something that takes 19 and a half hours to get to, considering that you also stood in the back of the courtroom and watched the video that they called on a Saturday that they wanted to keep watching. So there must have been something, there must have been a minefield of evidence or non-evidence that they had to transverse to get to a verdict after 19 and a half hours.
We would love to talk to jurors. We're not angry with anyone. Andy is a fantastic attorney and so interested in the craft. And we would love to talk to jurors about, you know, how they thought of us, what they thought of the evidence, to be better lawyers, if not to necessarily, you know, unpack all of the facts. Whatever they wanted to say to us, we would be happy to sit down and listen confidentially.
What was it that the jurors were limited to knowing, and then what did they think of your client?
And again, we just don't know. You know, I know Doug Carter said that. I didn't watch the press conference, but people would send me clips of it, and it seemed very bizarre. There's also people on WIBC that Doug could have watched that were had a completely different opinion on different shows, from what I understand as well. So, you know, this is a very polarizing case, but I've never seen one where after the verdict is reached, there is still, to this very moment in time, so much questioning of whether it's the correct verdict out there. I mean, that happens like within a family structure. If there's somebody that's accused of a drug case or something and they're convicted, and the family can get all up in arms about it. No, this happened and that happened. But we're talking about worldwide, you know, attention to this case, and worldwide, there's lots of people that just don't believe that they got the right guy, and that just never happens. It's very weird, very bizarre.
Did you believe, with the case you put on, that you did enough to prove he was not guilty, that the state didn't prove him guilty, or that he was innocent?
I don't think we need to go to innocence. I believe in my client's innocence. I believe in Rick Allen's innocence. I don't think there's any way. I mean, obviously, the 12 people on the jury felt otherwise, but they only had one person.
Pause 1 second.
But I think that there was a lot.
Yeah.
So she just mentioned, I believe my client is innocent. And I'm pretty sure on one of Defense Diaries interviews, and I don't remember which one of the three it was, they asked the same question: do you believe Rick is factually innocent? And I honestly cannot remember what the answer was. One of the three attorneys were asked, do you believe Richard is factually innocent? And I don't know that it was answered directly. I can't remember.
I can't remember either, but they've really stressed that they don't believe it, that he's guilty. And it's not just that, well, we need to get these charges reduced or dropped or this out to save him. It's more, they've really gone to bat for his innocence. You know what I mean? There's a difference.
Right, but there's factually innocent, there's not guilty, and there's guilty. I mean, there's three options, and one of them was asked, and boy, I wish I could remember what that answer was, because that was such a crucial question and answer.
There was just too many questions with this case, and I think
there are so many.
Right, with the judge saying there was no nexus with the third party situation. when when they began to stumble across that discovery and saw what it was pertaining to, and that there were certain
Okay.
things, you know.
All I says their ethics rules prevent them from stating that he's factually innocent after he's been
Okay.
found guilty in a court of law. That makes sense. But I also posed a question on the live with Andy, and I really love that interview with Andy Baldwin. He is such a freaking real, down to earth dude. He went to Brownsburg High School. I know exactly where that is. They have a really good basketball team every single year. They have a good football team every single year. But anyway, and then he went to Franklin College, and then he went to Akron for his law degree. I mean, this dude is a down to earth dude. I mean, and he spoke that way and he talked that way and he was very relatable. That doesn't mean that he's right, but he is a very, very good attorney, and he's just a different attorney than Brad,
Yeah,
Rosie.
right.
They had, and they talked about that on Rosie's interview last night. How Rosie is more the technical guy, and Andy is more like the
Very
language.
different styles, and that's what you need, right? You can
Yeah,
play off of each other, and each have your own ideas and your own way to bring things to the table. Should we see that over in the Idaho case, the difference between Ann Taylor and Jay Loxton? When I'm reading a file, I can tell you that document was probably written by Jay, but just because of the wording, you know what I mean? Ann's got a whole totally different style. So I guess it's like the good cop, bad cop type deal. Not like that. That's what they are. I'm just saying that the different
that's
personalities.
exactly what they said about that's
Yeah.
exactly what they said about Baldwin and Rosie too. Is that like if you're reading a filing, you can tell which one filed it. That's so
Mm,
funny, but you
yeah.
need that though, and that's kind of like our live streams too. You and I have a
Yeah.
good yin and yang going. Like we look at things a little bit differently, but we're always like we we're always trying to get to truth and justice. You
Yeah.
know?
We can be on the same page a lot, but have different ways of getting there.
Yes, exactly. Yes,
Sometimes,
well worded.
like we help each other understand things better, and that's the whole beauty of the conversations. So, like even when chat gets involved in it, that's why one reason why I wanted to call the morning show is Coffee and True Crime Conversations, because we a lot of these are just great conversations about the cases, because there's a lot of good conversations that come out of them, and there's a lot of talking points that not everybody will think about, and somebody else may think about it, and there you go, can
We
help
have we have
through
conversations
things.
back channel, like
Mm-hmm.
either on the phone or on the voice channel or whatever, and we're like 5 minutes into it, and we're like, "Damn, we should be doing this live."
Should be
Like,
live. Yeah. I
yeah,
did that
people
so
should be
many
hearing about
times in
this.
the past, like even with Danger, like we would be in the Discord doing Coburger stuff, Idaho 4, and we're like an hour into it. We're like, damn, we really should start that YouTube channel. Yeah. So we're getting there. But again, thank you all for tuning in, because without you guys tuning in and watching, that's what matters and makes the impact. We wouldn't even be here. And I don't ever think of saying like and subscribe, but I guess it does help the algorithm. You know what I mean? I'm surprised when I go back and look at the streams later on the analytic end, that how many views there were. Like, 'cause I don't think about that stuff like by nature. So I'm always like, wow, okay, that's really cool. So we appreciate you guys for tuning in and coming back and tuning in for more. And those that catch us on the replay, and give us your feedback in the comment sections after our shows. Because we do want to bring what you want, to the table, what you want to see, case suggestions, particular questions about certain cases, because we will follow a lot of different cases.
Kel, you're silly. Kel,
Yeah, I don't do that word.
yeah, right. Yep. I'm done with that. Yep.
Yeah, once was enough for me. I'm good just to know you. I mean, or the other way around. Hell, I don't know.
But the whole reason I had you pause this was because the word nexus was introduced somewhere
Hmm.
in there,
Here,
and
let's.
I asked on Bob's interview with Andrew Andy Baldwin what his legal definition of nexus was, and he answered that. And I would love to go and dive into that, but I don't want to get copyright stricken again.
Yeah, and the more I've listened to even these interviews with this Nexus situation. So I guess the bullet didn't match any of their guns.
Well, DNA,
And I'm assuming that,
the
well,
the
we
nexus for
can't.
me is DNA.
Well, I know, but any Nexus, okay? So there was no DNA of Rick Allen's. Only Nexus with Rick
Right.
Allen was the bullet. Not even the fact that he was there because he wasn't the only damn one there. There was a bunch of people there. So at that point in time, they were all suspects. They should have been.
Well,
Everybody out there that day should have been a suspect, regardless of
well,
what you
Mister,
dressed like and
yes,
regardless of, all the things.
and that's what Mr. Baldwin said. He said the nexus is low. It's just like a reasonable, and I don't even remember what his exact phrase was, but it's basically just saying, yeah, it's reasonable that they were out there, that they could have
But
been out there.
did they
But
ever
so
take any weapons from these guys? Because they started the investigation on those guys super early. For some reason, they were led straight to those guys very early on. So we know they took Weber's gun. They took a couple of other guns, so they say. We know they got DNA swabs from Holder and Westfall. Now, the DNA didn't match anybody, including Rick Allen. I'm assuming it didn't match the alternate suspects. Okay, no nexus, I get it. But the bullet, did it? Where did they recover those types of weapons from those other homes? Did they ever search their homes? I don't think they ever searched their homes because they cleared them based on alibis. So we don't know if that bullet came from one of their guns.
well, the nexus question for me is a matter of hypocrisy
Oh yeah.
because on August 1st, which is the only one of the 3-day hearings that I attended in person, the day started with closing arguments about the previous day's hearings. And Nick McClellan stood up there and pointed his long, dangly finger out in court and said, the nexus for a third party suspect has to be DNA evidence. And I was like, wait, what? That is entirely why I asked Andy Baldwin what his definition of nexus was. And it is clearly way different than what Nick McClellan's
Well,
was for a third party suspect
yeah.
versus what it
Any
is for Rick Allen.
Right? Well, the nexus for any suspect would be any evidence pointing toward that suspect, whether you're in a geofence, whether you got DNA, whether you got a gun that matched the bullet, whether you knew the victims personally and you were also on the bridge that day. All of that shit's nexus. I mean, what's the actual definition of nexus? I need to see you on camera committing the crime, or I mean, because I get it, but the evidence, no matter where it comes from, DNA, bullets, whatever,
He answered that.
that's your nexus.
He answered that very specifically legally, and
Well,
I
he
wonder
needs
if we
to go
can
back
just
to
I
law
wonder if we
school.
can no, I'm saying Andy Baldwin
Oh,
answered that on Defense Diaries. I
on
wonder if
what
we
they
can just
said the
play that
nexus
like
would
that.
have had to have
Yes.
been.
Yes. I wonder if we can just play that.
I'll have to
We're gonna
find
have
the
to play that
transcript.
little
See if they
clip.
have the
Yeah,
transcript from it and find it. I'll in the meantime, I'm going to start this back up.
yes, please.
Uh-oh. Hold on.
Uh-oh.
I don't know what happened. I got good strength, but something ain't right.
We talked about it too long.
I know. Hang on there, because hold on.
YouTube's like, you shouldn't talk about it that much. And pause it. You shouldn't pause it that long.
Rick Allen talked himself into this.
There we go.
You mean after he was taken to Westville without a hearing? After he was taken to Westville without an attorney? After he was taken to Westville without...
You need to hear the question.
You guys came on after the fact, but even then you were...
His response is fire, though.
Did Rick Allen talk himself into this conviction?
You mean after he was taken to Westville without a hearing? After he was taken to Westville without an attorney? After he was taken to Westville without any evidence that the safekeeping statute elements were met? You mean then?
Well, he started talking himself into it when he was with Jerry Holman at the state police post in Lafayette. He started talking himself into it when he was sitting with...
I disagree with that. I mean, I watched... We wanted the jury to see October 13th interview and October 26th interview. So anybody that watched that, I would think would say, wow, that I don't know what an innocent man is supposed to look like, but I'm going to tell you, in 30 years of doing this and seeing all kinds of confession, that was by far, I was very happy that he talked to Jerry Holman, because, you know, anybody that watches that, anybody that sees it, I hope that it can come out. I don't know what the status of that is. I mean, people are asking us, well, you know, the Franks memo had all these exhibits. Are those confidential or released? What about all the videotapes? We'd like to see those. We'd like to air those. And I have no idea. I mean, sadly, I just don't know how you guys can get access to that. But I think if anybody watched that, I don't think he was talking himself. Rick Allen, was talking into committing this crime. It was quite the opposite, actually, until he was taken to Westville.
There are two very different statements or themes of statements. You have his statement on the 13th and the 26th, in which he repeatedly and vehemently denied all of the allegations, denied all of the lies told to him by Jerry Holman. Then he gets to Westville, where he is placed in solitary confinement. Under the Mandela rules of the UN, that is torture, to keep someone in solitary confinement against their will for more than 15 days. It is against the Indiana DOC policy, if you're there as a convicted person, to keep someone in solitary confinement for more than 30 days. So after
I've said this multiple times,
denied any human contact, he's had a history of depression. He becomes psychotic, and maybe people told him. I don't believe the police ever told him not to talk, but I'm sure people told him.
Miranda rights.
That's not saying don't
talk.
Talk.
Let's talk about that, Russ. Let's talk about the 2 minutes of missing video on the October 26th interrogation of Allen from Jerry Holman, who his explanation, and so he claimed, Jerry did, that, I reminded him of his Miranda rights from October the 13th, and I told him he was free to leave. Those are important topics, because if you're not saying that, then the whole
I haven't seen this interview before, and I'm loving it.
Miraculously, that's missing, much like a lot of the other evidence. And what's so interesting is, under oath in a deposition, his explanation, Jerry Holman's explanation for that was, it wasn't working, so I went outside and then we tinkered with it and then turned it on, and then we saw that
Can you pause?
working, and then I walked back in. What he didn't.
Yeah.
I want to see like that last minute, because that is so huge in the treatment of a suspect. Like how Jerry Holman treated him was total bullshit. Like, I don't care if he's guilty. I don't know if he's guilty or if he's not. But the way that Rick Allen was treated by Jerry Holman is just, well, as Auger said, the UN standard is 15 days max in solitary. The Indiana Department of Corrections standard is 30 days max in solitary. He was in solitary for, that was October, November, December, January, February, March, 5.5 months before he started confessing.
It's ridiculous. And like they said, when you're in what is supposed to be the state of Indiana's most controlled, secured facility. Yep. Why in the world is this one inmate shackled, bound, sometimes covering, all these things
in pre-trial detention? He's
in
not
a
even
pre-trial situation.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, who would you keep in safe here? Your reputations or your particular person? Let's not.
All right. Yeah.
Okay.
I just want to hear that part again that Andy Baldwin says about this, because you can see the fire in his eyes. Watch the fire in your eyes.
Definitely.
Denied any human contact. He's had a history of depression. He becomes psychotic, and maybe people told him. I don't believe the police ever told him not to talk, but I'm sure people told him. Miranda rights. That's not saying don't talk.
Let's talk about that, Russ. Let's talk about the 2 minutes of missing video on the October 26th interrogation of Richard Allen.
He looked right at the camera.
To his explanation, and so he claimed, Jerry did, that, I reminded him of his Miranda rights from October the 13th, and I told him he was free to leave. Those are important, topics, because if you're not saying that, then the whole explanation, Jerry Holman's explanation.
Uh-oh. Can we not hear it?
Nope, we lost audio.
Yeah, because, the video doesn't start with him walking into the room. The video didn't start with him walking into the room. So they had no explanation for that at all. And that's by the way, that's kind of a small thing, but it's really.
But I'm sure people told him.
Topics, because if you're not saying that, then the whole statement can get tossed. Well, miraculously, that's missing, much like a lot of the other evidence. And what's so interesting is, under oath in a deposition, his explanation, Jerry Holman's explanation for that was, it wasn't working. So I went outside, and then we tinkered with it, and then turned it on, and then we saw that it was working, and then I walked back in. What he didn't get, because is the video doesn't start with him walking into the room. The video didn't start with him walking into the room. So they had no explanation for that at all. And that's by the way, that's kind of a small thing, but it's really indicative of a larger problem that happened in this case, that there's missing evidence all over the place. And it's not just it's missing evidence of the things of the third party suspect evidence. It's always focused on that. Mocked crime scene photo on somebody's social media page or Facebook page. Missing. Jerry Holman was the last guy that I know of to see it. Okay. Now I've never heard an explanation given, nor an apology, nor like, man, that's really bad. We need to figure that out. They're not investigating where it is. I had to drive to Georgia with, two guys to locate this, what I would label as exculpatory evidence that is still to this day missing.
Did Richard Allen lose his mind because he was incarcerated and started confessing, or did he lose his mind because he felt guilt over what he allegedly had done?
He lost his mind because he was incarcerated in condition.
So he said he drove to Georgia to get.
Yeah, he said he drove to Georgia with two guys. I don't know why he added that in there.
Well, it was supposedly to get some exculpatory evidence. Now they can't find, because I had heard through the grapevine stuff. Didn't they go to Georgia to speak to somebody about Holder?
That I don't know. I have no idea. You have more behind the scenes stuff on this than I do.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to ask around. All Eyes, are you still in here? Do you recall something like that? I'll have to check around. So don't quote me on that, guys. I'm just thinking out loud.
That someone, as a pretrial detainee who is innocent under our state constitution and our federal constitution at that point, he was incarcerated in conditions that no one should ever be incarcerated. And it wasn't until he was rubbing his feces on himself. It wasn't until he was eating his feces.
Westville has kept a prisoner in solitary confinement for 4 years. 4 years. They lost a lawsuit over that.
Nobody in this world knew him better than Kathy Allen. Why didn't you call Kathy to the stand?
Well, those are the game time decisions that you make. We felt at the time that we had seen how the prosecution had treated some of the witnesses, and Kathy is a sweet lady. She's feisty and she fights for Rick hard and she supports him 100%. I don't think Rick would have wanted his wife up there subject to that. And we felt that we had, the state had not done enough to prove its case beyond a reasonable doubt. And it was an unnecessary risk for her to get up there. I mean, juries can read into a wife like, oh, that little facial expression. The daughter, they got up and his daughter got up and they did what they have to do as prosecutors, I suppose. And I just didn't want, I know Rick was upset by the daughter having to testify. I don't think he would have wanted Kathy to testify. Now that we lost the case and people would say, what would you do differently? We would have to reanalyze that. Maybe the jury will tell us if we ever get to talk to him, you should have put Kathy Allen on. These are the things that trial lawyers, this is what stinks about being trial lawyers is when you lose, you have to do this post-mortem. You have to look and analyze everything. Should I have done that cross differently? Did I forget? Should I have added that? Did we focus on the wrong things? And that Kathy Allen, whether she should have testified or not, that'll be one of those things that we're going to think about.
Was there ever a plea deal in the works, offered, discussed?
No, not really. I mean, and it was one of those plead guilty as charged and we'll drop one of the murder. There was something. I mean, it's some cases you just have to go to trial, and this was always one of those cases.
Because there were 4 counts.
We always knew that he couldn't be sentenced on 4 counts. So he can only be sentenced on 1 count for each girl. So dismissing 2 of the counts doesn't.
There was nothing like a set term a year offer or anything like that. And it really doesn't matter because Rick was never going to take it anyway. So it wouldn't have mattered.
Why did you turn down an offer to do a polygraph before you got involved in the case? Holman says he was offered a polygraph and turned it down.
Well, here's the thing that my clients tell me when they're offered polygraphs and they don't take them. I have mental health issues. I'm nervous. And by the way, do you trust Jerry Holman? And do you trust the police? I mean, Jerry brought him over there on October 26th when he asked him for the polygraph under false pretenses. He went over there, Rick did, because they had held on to his
By the way,
car.
do you trust Jerry Holman?
And he needed the car, so he went over there. And,
I have to quit being a cheapo and go buy a new mouse because my left clicker doesn't want to work right. And I'm like, stop. And it like wouldn't pause. So sorry, it took me a second. I hear you laughing back there.
By the way, do you trust Jerry Holman?
No.
You don't. You never take a polygraph. And I'm pretty sure that if I remember the interview correctly, from Jerry Holman's own testimony on the stand, which I saw in person, he was actually going to be willing to take the polygraph until he realized that they're trying to pin this on him.
Mm-hmm.
And then he's like, all right, I'm not going to swear. He's like, heck no. Heck no, I'm not going to take a polygraph.
No, and they're inadmissible in court anyway. And we saw
Right.
well, not all of us, but some of us saw that fiasco with Seth Rogers and Nancy Grace damn polygraph shit. I just want to take a minute to acknowledge this. Forrest Nelson, which Forrest is now a mod. He was supposed to be already. I just hadn't done it yet, but now you are. But look, he just gifted some memberships, 5 of them altogether.
Nice.
I can't see who got them though.
I think you got to look in YouTube for that. Okay, so Jen.
Oh yeah.
Disney nerd. Possum.
Joe Schmoe.
What?
Joe, Jen P, Disney, Possum Friend, and my passenger, 33.
Nice.
Thank you, Forrest. We appreciate that. Well, welcome new members. I just recently got monetized. Today's the first stream with that. And so with the memberships will be coming some members only live streams that we'll be doing. I've got a couple of there's 3 that we're going to be doing, and they'll be based on different things. Like we'll do one, like a crime scene lab, where we'll talk about evidence and we'll look into certain types of evidence and take a look at what experts think about it, and different things that may help us learn more about some of the cases we're following.
So
And
you're
then,
saying we will be investigating?
yes, and we'll look into things like court filings and legal terms. If something comes up and we're like, well, what does this mean? We can take a deeper dive into different things. Suggestions, anything you guys want to talk about, let me know. We'll do one called the deliberation room, where we'll try to have a plan for that. I want to have like special guests on to talk about specific cases. And then we can all just get in there and kind of deliberate the case. You know what I mean? So there are some ideas in the works for our members only live streams going forward, and some other things, and Joe is boots on the ground a lot. So we're trying to bring you guys good content and things that you want to see. And that's part of this morning show deal we're trying to get going. So yeah, anytime, let us know in the comments what you want to see. And thanks again, Forrest. We appreciate you. All right, we'll start the interview back.
They were going to arrest him. They say that they weren't, but that's just outrageous. And so I wouldn't have trusted those guys for a polygraph for my life, especially if I have mental health, depression and stuff, and I have to worry about whether that's going to be a false positive or a false negative. So
If I'm being interrogated by an individual who tells me that a bullet from my gun is at the scene, and I know that neither I or my gun have ever been there, and he tells me that they have scientists who know that it's my voice on that video, and I know I'm not on the video, and they have scientists who say that that is me on the video, and I know I'm not on the video.
And those are lies, by the way.
Right,
There was no
those are
scientists that said
yeah.
that. Yeah.
There's a string of lies that Jerry Holman said to Rick Allen on the 26th. If they can make up that evidence,
Yeah.
how are they going to skew a polygraph?
If you're sitting on that jury, how do you get past hearing from Richard Allen? Every jury says, we want the guy to testify, and every defense attorney says, I'm not going to open up my guy for this. I'm assuming one reason there was no point in having him testify is they've already got all this video that they've watched and heard all these phone calls. If you're the jury, how do you get past, because remember, we're looking at this the way the jury looks at this, how do you get past, but the guy kept saying it?
The timeline was one way they could have gotten past that. I mean, Jennifer did a terrific job getting our expert, Stacey Eldridge was her name, the forensic phone expert, and she should talk more about that. But the story that the prosecution presented as to what the timeline was blown by the forensic data, which is, as we said, the data is the data is the data, and that's the forensic data showed that their story did not hold water.
The only time Rick said anything that was even remotely incriminating, the jury saw the videos of him, and the jury saw the videos of the conditions of his confinement when those statements were made. And to me, that throws a tremendous amount of doubt on anything Rick said during that time. And the other thing is, just as Andy said, the forensic data, if you believe the state's timeline, Libby's phone was under a shoe, under Abby's body from, let's say, 3:50, which is generous.
Hold on, pause.
p.m. on February 13th until.
So Bob Mata has said that he thought the defense should have attacked the timeline more. And here she is mentioning the timeline. So they both said, looking back, what mistakes were made. And I'm pretty sure that they have both said they should have attacked the timeline better. They've all said that. So here she is talking about the timeline. And it's not televised, so we don't know exactly what he said in closing. But could the timeline have been attacked more successfully?
Probably. And maybe that'll be a part of the appellate once they get there.
Yeah, I doubt it. I think once the toothpaste is out of the tube, I don't think you can put it back in. Like,
True, and I wonder though, during the appellate process, is it more like going to be a rights violation process?
right, exactly. Yeah, there's got to be some kind of a
Mm-hmm.
constitutional / legal basis for the
Yeah,
appeal, and they're just going to be looking at paper, and they're just going to be looking at testimony, and obviously the attorneys are going to make some kind of a statement around what the appeal is. But
yeah.
I don't think they can. I don't think they can put that toothpaste back in the tube. I
I don't
think it's
think so.
gone.
Yeah, I think you're right, and I think that it's what it's going to come down to on appeal is not like a technicality may not be the correct term, but what about this case that was so mishandled that would cause an appeal? Lack of evidence, overturning evidence, things of that nature, all kinds of avenues to take. And with these new attorneys being assigned, it because they even talk about it in this interview about really just cleaning up the record and make that and getting all the things on record. Even when they were doing their filings, when they were denied this and that, they'd come back with a filing. They needed to make sure it was on record that, hey, we did ask for this, she denied it, and now here we are saying that's not right. You know what I mean? So anything that Judge Gull did that could be seen as not correct by her job standards, that could affect the case. I think she thinks that she was doing everything by the book and blah, blah, blah. But could some of it come back to bite her in the butt? Absolutely. Because a lot of people are like, what is she doing? This doesn't appear to be legal,
Yeah, there was a lot of stuff she did that a lot of people feel like was heavy-handed and outside
Mhm.
of the suspect's rights.
Mhm.
I guess we'll figure that. Well, actually, one of the things already went to the Supreme Court and was
Right.
partially overturned. So Baldwin and Rosie got reappointed as attorneys for the defense, but she was
And
also asked to be removed, and she was not removed by the Supreme
but she
Court.
was also ordered to fix the docket because there was a problem because sometimes there was orders being uploaded. Sometimes they would be uploaded and then removed, and she turned around and threw her clerk of court under the bus and blamed her for it. And so the Supreme Court, at the same time they reinstated the attorneys, said you need to fix that and make sure it all goes in the docket. But then they still didn't remove her from the case, So they did, at least reinstate them, and then they did court order her to fix that damn docket because, hey, it shouldn't be like that, period.
Maybe
So-
someday I'll tell you about the time that I handed her clerk of the court an envelope full of cash.
Oh, Lord, don't, Joe.
It's a true story. It is a true story.
Yeah. Was it it was paying for documents.
I swear it was.
yeah, that's our story and we're sticking to it. Okay. Secret safe here. Uh-oh. Not again.
Not again. Come on, OJ. Come on, OJ. Oh my gosh, OJ is circling.
Let me stop the screen again, see if that helps like it did before.
We're an hour into our live and we're only 20 minutes into this video.
Oh shoot.
People are, I hope they're slightly entertained because we have some decent things to say, right? And I have a story about an envelope full of cash for the Allen County
to its ultimate resting place
clerk of the court.
And that's, that is an explanation.
While he's talking, I'm going to
that
read
is,
the restroom real quick. I'll be right back.
It's supported by the Apple Health data. It's supported by the forensic data. And, maybe we as defense lawyers didn't do the best job of explaining that part of the timeline because it's super confusing. Even as I sit here, I'm like, yeah, those are other facts, and that's definitively what could have happened, and it makes the most sense.
If you're the jury, how do you get past the fact that Rick admits he's on the bridge, dressed like bridge guy, and there's only maybe a dozen people on that bridge that day, and most of them are females? He's the only guy that anybody spots on that bridge who looks like bridge guy, and he goes, yeah, I was on the bridge about then, and I guess, yeah, my clothes kind of resemble bridge guy.
He didn't say that he was on the bridge about then. He said he was on the bridge between 12 and 1:30 when he would leave. And then
That's
you get to
a valid
Betsy
point.
Blair,
That
who
should have
was the
been
witness, and
hammered more in court,
they
dude.
did not want Betsy Blair to testify about certain things, so they limited my cross-examination, or my cross of her. She described somebody completely different than Rick Allen. She described somebody that was young. She described in their 20s, brown poofy hair. She didn't say that he's short. Rick Allen is a short guy. Not one person, not any of these witnesses that the state claims were important witnesses said, yeah, he was a real short guy. In fact, we heard quite the opposite. He was tall. He was 5'11" or so.
Why didn't you guys ask Sarah Carbaugh how tall the guy was? She saw it walking.
That probably would have been good. That was my cross. I don't know. I think we did in deposition, and she said average or something. I don't know if it ended up being that important with Sarah. So,
not one of their witnesses identified Rick Allen in court. Not
Bingo.
a witness. And
Bingo.
of their eyewitnesses, no one described Rick Allen. They described the bridge guy, if
Bingo.
you will, is not particularly tall, not particularly short, not in the right age group, nothing about him. And here's the other thing. How do we know that bridge guy is a guy who is seen on video behind Abby on the bridge? But there's no evidence that bridge guy is the voice on the video.
Oh,
It's
that,
yeah. Pause.
Teresa
Pause.
Weaver.
uh-huh.
It's so interesting to me to hear the attorneys talking about Bridge Guy, because we've been talking about Bridge Guy since that very first press conference.
Yeah.
When they told us there was a Bridge Guy. What? And wait, but did we hear that? Did we hear that in 2017? Did we hear about Bridge Guy, or was it 2 years later that we heard about Bridge Guy?
We heard about Bridge Guy in 2017, and then 2
Okay.
years later, we got the new sketch, Young Bridge Guy sketch.
Right. Okay. And they told us to ignore the original Bridge Guy. We were focusing
Yes.
on the new Bridge Guy, the younger
Right.
Bridge Guy. But the attorneys are here talking about Bridge Guy as well, which is fascinating to me.
Well, remember, though, after we were told to ignore the first sketch, go by the second sketch, then we were told, hold up, they're the same person.
They're going to
When they-
merge together with magic hands.
Together. And like she just said, there's no evidence that voice saying down the hill belongs to the Bridge Guy person.
Oh, but there is. We have an expert witness in Sheriff Tony Liggett, who was the lead investigator and not the sheriff at the time. He sat on the stand in front of me and said, it's not humanly possible that there was another man at the south end of the bridge that's not Bridge Guy. He said that under oath.
How is it not humanly possible when you can just walk up to it from the drive?
Yeah,
you walked up to it.
I did, and it wasn't that hard from Brad Weber's drive.
Possible.
But he's an expert witness, so he's allowed to offer his expert opinion, which is,
sir, your expert opinion. We should have had a Dauber hearing about that shit.
Yep.
We're not buying it. No. We are not buying it.
But he said that under oath in front of my very eyes. It's not humanly possible that there was another person at the south end of the bridge that wasn't Bridge Guy.
That's crazy. But the things they want us to believe is what's the crazy part, you know?
Right. We just want to get to the truth. If you would just be like good investigators, do a good forensics investigation, and tell the truth on the stand, and not hold a guy in solitary confinement for 14 months or however long it was, then we'd all have an easier time accepting the jury's verdict in this. At least I would.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, we'll see what some of these jurors have to end up saying when they do finally start speaking.
How did MS get an exclusive juror interview?
They have sources. They have people that will talk to them. Unfortunately, they have people that follow them and believe in them. and they're
But it's
from
gonna
the area.
right.
They're probably followed a few of them home, looked into them, emailed them to who knows what, you know.
Oh, you're making wild allegations now.
Well, I'm sure they're not the only entity media-wise who've tried to reach out. But it's funny how social media is getting these interviews before
Right.
anybody else is getting them. You know what I mean?
Right. Right.
It's
Shouldn't Barb McDonald have that interview?
right. Barbie should be like pissed. Like, wait a minute. I spent too much time on the CNN. Now nobody likes me. Lord. Okay.
Or maybe Nancy Grace. Maybe the jurors should be going on Nancy Grace.
If they want that salacious bullshit, they'll be the first one to call it. If they're like drama queens, they'll be on Nancy Grace. I bet you. Okay, let's go.
All right.
This.
Yep.
Someone on the other end of the bridge that day.
Where the girls were, abducted.
Yeah, where the girl on the south end.
Brown poofy hair. She didn't say that he's short. Rick Allen is a short guy. Not one person, not any of these witnesses that the state claims were important witnesses said, yeah, he's a real short guy. In fact, we heard quite the opposite. He was tall. He was 5'11" or so.
Why didn't you guys ask Sarah Carbaugh how tall the guy was? She saw him walking.
That probably would have been good. That was my cross. I don't know. I think we did in deposition, and she said average or something. I don't know if it ended up being that important with Sarah. So,
not one of their witnesses identified Rick Allen in court. Not a single witness. And of their eyewitnesses, no one described Rick Allen. They described the bridge guy, if you will, as not particularly tall, not particularly short, not in the right age group, nothing about him. And here's the other thing. How do we know that bridge guy is a guy who is seen on video behind Abby on the bridge? But there's no evidence that bridge guy is the voice on the video. That Teresa Liebert saw someone on the other end of the bridge that day.
Where the girls were, abducted.
Yeah, where the girl on the south end where the girls were abducted.
I was struck on that Saturday when Doug Carter testified that he was only up there for like less than 10 minutes.
So the area where Teresa saw that the person near that mailbox that day was on the south end, down at that end.
Yeah, well, that's where Abby and her mom lived with her grandparents.
Right.
It was on the south end of that road.
Would have been down toward that end.
So when they were abducted, they were like literally about a half mile from Abby's house.
Yeah.
So you can't tell me that it wasn't somebody familiar with that area, familiar with them and their habits. Like they came in from the north side to walk across the bridge, but Abby lived southwest along Brad Weber's private drive that turns into a county road, about a half mile from the south end of the bridge.
Yeah.
Dang, why are we retrying this on social media?
Because social media is where it's at, man.
No,
Media.
no. It's because the police investigation was shit. Oh shit!
I know.
This is your channel.
You're good. There's a lot of people who are monetized at cussing. If it's all it takes to get thrown off of that is cussing, then so be it. We're gonna be us.
But the police investigation, the forensics, the interviews, the lost evidence, the neglected evidence. Like, that's why we're still retrying it after we have a unanimous jury verdict.
Well, even like they're saying, that's the same issues they have, the same issues we have. All these third-party suspects, lost interviews, lost evidence, all the things that they've been talking about right here in this interview alone, things that didn't make sense that on Gull's rulings. So will any of those rulings now come back to haunt her on this appeal process? Like, she even asked Rick Allen, make it easy for everybody, don't appeal. Like, lady, are you
she also said she also told him to stop rolling his eyes. Like, what are you, his wife?
Well, hell, even Holman couldn't say that he was rolling his eyes. He didn't even make himself lie. He's like, I didn't see it, but Judge Gold said he did, so he did. I don't know. So what? In my opinion, what if he rolled his eyes? But I'm telling you, if I'm sitting in court and I think I'm innocent, or I'm claiming I am innocent, and things are being said about me that I don't agree with, I might roll my eyes. It's going to be hard for me to sit there blank face, stone face the entire time. It's some.
I'm rolling my eyes right now.
Yeah, I'm going to say my face is such a dead ass giveaway. A defense attorney, you have a hard time with me. They're going to be like, you got to just cover your face with your hand. Just at least do that. We'll get you in big ass drinking mugs, and you just take a drink every time you need to make a face.
Think happy thoughts. Think happy thoughts.
Then they'll get you for being arrogant in the courtroom.
Right, exactly. Yeah. Why didn't he react? Why didn't she
they
react?
look worried. They're worried. Like, what if I sit here and flip you off with my finger as I scratch my face? That, what? I mean, Jesus. Don't look at me. I got a niece that's like that. She's on the spectrum a little bit, but one of her things is, especially if you're in public and if you're a stranger, she'll say, "Don't look at me." Like, don't look at her. We're like, we're not joking. Don't do it. It's like, I'm gonna be like my niece. Don't look at me. You might not like what you see. You're gonna take it the wrong way. That's how you're gonna take it. Let me just be honest. All right. Well, let's get.
We got to catch up.
She's over helicopter mom judges. Lord, you ain't lying.
Minutes. And nobody really delved into why he dismissed the FBI from the case. You didn't even delve into the fact that, hey, Doug, didn't you say once upon a time there were multiple suspects in this case? Now, I realize you would have been treading on thin ice if you'd have tried to go to the sketches. But you and I both know there's a way to tiptoe there without cracking the ice. So what I was struck with is why Carter wasn't, because Carter was the main spokesman for so many years on this, saying so many things on the record that would have led away from your client, but you really didn't pin him down on something.
Well, I would have liked to, Russ, but there was a sidebar, an objection in a sidebar, and I was directed what I was allowed to ask and not allowed to ask.
What were those conversations like, whether it was in chambers or in sidebars? Because it seemed like 3-1, and I'm being generous here, the prosecution motions were being approved or objections were being approved 3 times to every one for the defense. So what were those conversations like, whether it was the day in October 23 you guys were being kicked off the case, after the fact?
October 19th, the only time that cameras were allowed in the courtroom that day. I can't comment on any of that.
Oh, you know what? He has had a good point. That is true. The only day that Judge allowed cameras in the courtroom was the day she decided, hold up, I'm kicking you guys out of here. That she wanted the world to see. Power play? Like, what the hell?
So that's debatable. So when I was in line, the I can't remember what day it was. I was a couple people down from Ron Wilkins, who is the Journal and Courier a Journal and Courier reporter on this. And I said that out loud. I was like, I can't believe that we don't have cameras on this case. It sucks. It's stupid. And he said it's because they went live that day and Court TV continued broadcasting when they went off record. And she pointed him out on it. She called him out on it, and she canceled recording all future court proceedings.
Well, Court TV needs to get their act together because they darn near got the cameras thrown out of the Koberger case because the judge
Karen Reed too, and the Karen Reed case too.
Well, Court TV, stop it! Stop covering trials if y'all can't follow the darn simple ass rules the judges lay out. They were told in the Koberger case during the hearings not to zoom in on the suspect and not to, hold the camera angle there for long periods of time. So The next time they had a hearing, what does the guy do? Zooms right in on Koberger. We're all like, holy shit, dude, you're going to get the cameras banned, and we're all going to come after you when that happens. But luckily, the judge is like done the camera pull thing now. So,
well, Judge Bev in the
around it.
in the
But-
Karen Reed case, Judge Bev said, "All right, we're done broadcasting for the afternoon," but she let them come back later with an admonishment. You better not do that again, right? So Judge Gold had the opportunity to do that too. So was it an excuse just to stop televising? But she actually was one of the judges that agreed to the pilot program of allowing cameras in the courtroom in Indiana. And if you go, there is a live stream that shows court proceedings in Indiana right now, and there are usually like 3 or 4 counties that are broadcasting some kind of court proceeding. Elkhart County's court is scary. Like, that's a freaky looking court. But anyway, that's a side note. So she was with a pilot program, but did she also use that as an excuse in this particular case to just cancel all future broadcasting of the court?
I don't know, but I would have her on the stand on an appellate process, because if you were on this pilot program and you agreed about cameras for this and that and that reason, you better give me damn good reason why you denied them in this case.
Do you think she would tell the truth under oath?
You better, and don't tell me it was for safety of you, the attorneys, the families, the suspect, whatever.
The jury.
Don't. You can call in the damn National Guard of Indiana to help protect the courthouse if need be. You better give me a good reason, because I'm about to fight tooth and nail. I mean, that's just, if you're going to go.
She said it was because they were broadcasting stuff that was off of the record that should not be broadcast.
And I understand that, but there was still a way around it. The next time you just put that pool camera in there and you have damn well control over it, unless, that was just too much work, for her. There's still no excuse for it. I don't think she can come up with any valid reason. Oh, it was a media circus. It was more, you created more of a circus because of the fact that you didn't want anything out there. That when you decided to hide everything, gag orders are one thing, but when you go and deny cameras and audio and transcripts, that's a lot to deny on a public hearing. You better start having some explanations for your behavior into why this case specifically was so bad that you had to go take all those measures. I mean, it's ridiculous.
Well, we have a constitutional right to a public trial. As a defendant, not as a public, but as a defendant, we have a constitutional right to a public trial. So eventually, we are going to have to define, maybe legally, maybe through the appellate process, maybe even up to the Supreme Court, what exactly a quote unquote public trial. Does that mean that we're guaranteed televised proceedings? Does that mean that we're guaranteed 24 seats in the courtroom? I mean, what is the actual definition of a quote unquote public trial?
Well, I think they need to look at it and reevaluate it this day and age, because things have to change with the times. So does that mean open courtroom, anybody in the public can come in? Okay, well, we only have 24 seats available. Well, because you have limited access because your courtroom is small, then you need to provide transcripts, which should be available regardless, because that is a court record of the proceeding. And then yes, what is wrong with putting a fixed camera in there to accommodate those that can't make it into the building? There's nothing wrong with that. It's the same thing. You're going to see and hear the same thing. So put a camera in there. It's not rocket science. It could have been so easily done. But when you went into but to me, it's the gag order, the no cameras, the no audio, the no transcripts, all of that, for what? Because you didn't want to look bad in any capacity. Lori Vallow, we didn't have a camera, but we got transcripts at the end of the day, or we had audio rather. We had something, at least we could hear it. So yeah, it's I guess that debate's going to go on forever in Indiana, but hopefully under these appellate attorneys now they can really get to work and get something done. You know.
Yeah, and Brad Rosie said on last night's interview that when Judge Gold made some of her rulings, that there were other attorneys in the profession in his regional bar area that reached out to him and are like, "What the is going on there?"
Yeah.
So their support for court proceedings not being operated this way, but unfortunately, Rick Allen right now is paying the price for it being operated this way.
Exactly. It's just again, it makes you wonder why this case, why all of this, you know, to uh, I'm not going to say cover up, but damn, why, you know, go through all these measures and then to come out of the gate with that press conference blaming these attorneys for everything that went on. But we'll continue this now.
Okay.
Whoops.
I just can't comment on that.
Well, then, if you can't tell me the specifics, tell me the tenor or what you were up against.
I will say that, you know, I try to be respectful and so forth. And there were good moments with Judge Gall. And sometimes judges and attorneys, not talking about her specifically, they don't see eye to eye. And there was a lot of that in this case. But there was also some good moments during the trial where in the sidebars we would, you know, maybe chuckle a little bit. And I tried to be, you know, nice and so forth. And, you know, it was an awkward circumstance. And you know, it's um, I can't say a whole lot more than that. I mean, I respect the judiciary, and you know, I don't know what more to say about it. I can't say a whole lot more about it than that. Jennifer, I don't know what.
Yeah, Judge Gall told us at one of the pretrial hearings she ran a tight ship and she followed through with that.
Can you talk about what you and Nick McLeland were chewing on each other about after the sentencing? Why not?
That's between Mr. McClelland and I.
Well, it was said in open, you know, it was appeared in open court, and there were conversations and statements made in open court that you felt it was necessary to go back and maybe correct the record or the quotes.
It wasn't on the record.
I've had 2 trials televised. My firm has had 3. I think the first murder, one of the first times was a murder trial that 2 of our partners, they aired their final arguments and stuff. And I believe in transparency. I do. And but that's ultimately a judge's call. For whatever reason,
Damn, we were just talking about that
cameras in the
transparency.
courtroom, except on October the 19th. And but other than that day, there was no cameras allowed, and I'm not really sure why. I respect the judge's decision there. I think transparency is important. You know, as
I
a
don't.
lawyer, I never would have really wanted until I got until I was in front of I guess cameras on the 2 trials that I had that were televised. You realize as a lawyer, you're concerned that am I going to be so worried about what I'm doing and what I'm saying that it takes away from your client's case and your defense. And I will tell you that the reality of it is if you're doing your job correctly and you're worried about the craft of what you're doing and just putting the work that you've put into the case into the courtroom, you don't even realize that those cameras are there. So, you know, as part this being kind of I guess a worldwide uh, case that everybody knows about, I would be nervous if the cameras were in the courtroom. But at the same time, I think we would have got through it, and I think at the same time it would have, you know, been good to be transparent. The judge had her reasons. I don't know what they are, but I respect her reasons.
I think philosophically, transparency is better. It gives validity to the proceedings, and people need to believe in our system. People need to respect our system for it to work properly. And in this case, there were limited seating in the courtroom. As Andy said, there was worldwide publicity. I know that, you know, it was difficult for all of the reporters and the people who were trying to report the story in a fair and judicious manner. So, you know, philosophically, I think that the cameras in the courtroom are helpful in that it gives transparency, and people are more likely to believe and respect and participate in a system that's transparent and fair. I completely agree with Andy. I think the first couple of days, for me personally, would have been difficult if there are cameras on you, right? It's a whole nother layer. But especially in a month-long trial, you get into the groove of things, and you're going to forget about them, and do your job, as well as you can.
Is this the table in the conference room where Mitch Westerman came upon the evidence?
That's real tough for me to talk about. This is the conference room where he told me that he did that.
Did the leaks?
I just wanted to stop for a second in case what they're about to talk about, in case any of you aren't familiar. A lot of you are, but some of you who may not be. They're going to be talking about the leaked crime scene photos, not the second leak that recently happened and they were on Twitter, but before. The gentleman who took the crime scene photos took a screenshot of the photos, and he took them out of the attorney's office. They were laid out in their war room, if you will, where they, discussed the case. So he was a former employee, but he was a friend as well. So he had use of the office. So that's what they're about to talk about, is that particular. And Mitch Westerman is the guy who took the photo.
Right. And somebody ended up unaliving themselves over this, right?
Yes. There was 3 people involved, and the middleman basically unalived himself. Westerman handed him off to him. I believe he handed him off to a man named Cohen. And from there they went to several places, including MS, and they claim they turned them in. So we'll, I don't know.
But
yeah.
But also last night on Rosie's interview on Defense Diaries, he I kind of felt like he distanced himself from this leak. He was like, I was geographically distant from Baldwin's office, and so I didn't know anything about it until he called me and told me about it. So Brad Rosie kind of distanced himself from this whole thing, which I can't blame him for.
Well, if he wasn't even there, you know what I mean?
Right.
On the premises or anything. So
right.
I don't even know that he was. So let's go back.
You can pick up where you don't have to. You can pick up where you left off.
In that it gives transparency, and people are more like.
But I don't mind talking about transparency either, because
Did the leaks set back the credibility?
Can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah,
probably.
I think my headset's
I'm just an honest, transparent guy, and it probably did, and it was very upsetting. And I was angry about it. I was angry about the the allegations that I intentionally set those wheels into play, because that's just a complete lie. It was a really dramatic mistake, a life-altering mistake.
Wait, what did he just say was a lie? What did he just say was a complete lie? I missed that.
People were saying that he pretty much orchestrated to get the photos.
Oh, yeah. That's just bullshit.
Go back to right here, because my headsets, I think they're cutting out. I was telling you about. I think it's just this actual headset. 'Cause right now it's like one ear, I could hear out of, and then the next minute it's the other ear.
Well,
like, what's going on
here? The interviewer's volume is a little bit low, but Baldwin's volume is fine, and so is OJ's.
Okay, yeah, it's this headset's going bad, I think. All right, here we go.
He did that.
Did the leaks set back the credibility of the defense and your ability to pursue the case?
Probably. I'm just an honest, transparent guy, and it probably did, and it was very upsetting. And I was angry about it. I was angry about the the allegations that I intentionally set those wheels into play, because that's just a complete lie. It was a really dramatic mistake, a life-altering mistake for Mitch, who is actually, I've forgiven him. I want, people may not expect that, or they may think, oh, that's that's odd. You shouldn't. That means that you probably had something to do with it or something. No, it's because I'm a human being and he's my friend, and he's a good man. And this forever altered his life in a negative way, and he made a really, really bad mistake. And I feel badly for him, and I hope that people, human beings, can look at a mistake that somebody's made, even as a dramatic a mistake as that was. That was difficult for him to come tell me about it, and it was difficult for me to accept it. But over time, I talked to him and said I forgave him because, that's part of my faith.
Doug Carter and Jerry Holman put the death of the YouTuber on you guys.
Yeah, that's disgusting. And I would ask Doug Carter to listen to Jerry Holman's the audio tape interrogation, or whatever you want to call it, of that young man who had a daughter and a wife, and where he lied to that young man. And because I have those audios as part of the contempt
That's
that was filed.
disgusting.
Yeah.
That's
So
disgusting.
here we go again with Holman and his lies during interrogations.
But trigger warning.
Yeah. So when Holman, they're investigating what happened, and they go to investigate and talk to the gentleman that they were looking at into the leak. This particular man, Mr. Fortson's his name. So he was interviewed, interrogated, whatever you want to call it. The Holman technique was applied, and Holman lied. And the defense has the audio versions or audios. Look, that didn't get lost, did it? So they have the audio of that. And apparently, I would like to hear that, actually, to see how hardcore. What kind of lies did he tell the man? Do you know what I mean? That to make
Do you know exactly what day that interview went on? Like date?
No.
Look into it. Get back to me.
Yeah.
Because there needs to be a FOIA request with that.
Yes.
And in it, Jerry Holman is basically saying, I can have you arrested. Instead of just saying, hey, we're just trying to get to the bottom of this. You didn't do anything wrong. You didn't commit a crime. Maybe it was a wrong thing to do in terms of morally wrong. And it was not a great idea. And people are impacted by this. And, you shouldn't have trusted these people that you sent it to or whatever. Instead of doing that to this young man, he lied to him and said, I'm going to call the judge right now. And, she said that I can hold people in contempt. And I'd like for Doug Carter to watch that or listen to that and then reassess his.
I like that. I need to make a video be like this. This goes out to Doug Carter. Listen to this before your damn retirement. Jeez.
If I had 20 hours a day to work on doing video clips, this would be one of like 100 I would prepare on Doug Carter. And you know that. But Holman too. Damn, the more I learn about him, like
very shady individual was he the reason for the entire cover up? I mean, I don't know anymore.
Right.
Like, can we even call it a cover up anymore? Or we just call it dumb police investigation that went absolutely nowhere for 5 solid years until you found something y'all thought you had lost, which you should have never done to start with. And then you manufactured evidence to fit the guy because you got to get somebody. Right. I mean, come on.
At what point does dumb become evil? At what point does dumb become dark?
Or dark become dumb? I mean, vice versa. Or we got both dumb and, excuse me, I got the hiccups all of a sudden.
You do.
Dumb and dark. Oh, I do, and I never get the hiccups. I don't know what I did. Goodness.
It's Holman's fault. Or no, it's Carter's fault. It's Baldwin mentioned Carter and you get the hiccups. Look at that.
I think they went away. Like that didn't last long. All right.
This is
what he says related to that death being on me. It's really disgusting. And we deserve better than that.
I've covered some big trials in Indianapolis. I covered Richmond Hill, but that was pre-social media. Social media is not much of a factor. Social media from day one saturated this. Have we entered into a new playing field or what impact social media had on the pursuit of this investigation and of covering this trial?
It's fascinating in a way. You know, I came in later after Brad and Andy had already been through so much. And from the beginning, I decided I'm going to keep my head down. I'm not going to listen to any of this stuff because we've got 26 terabytes of data. We've got a lot of work to do. I think as we have discovered after the trial, that was probably a mistake because there were some things out on social media that were important on an evidentiary level. But I have a practice, Brad has a practice, Andy has a practice. We have clients who aren't Rick Allen. The manpower needed to do that would be tremendous. I think, you know, Andy and I have talked, I think you almost need to hire or have an expert in social media to be full-time filtering through these things. Because there's a lot of fluff, there's a lot of mistruths, a lot of lies, but there are some things that turned out probably were important to the case.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, the gag order was a problem in that we should have probably had a hearing on that and asked for the parameters, because one of the things that would happen is, like Jennifer's saying, we would get you know, podcasters, I suppose. I early on, I didn't know who was a podcaster and who wasn't. We'd get emails, I don't even know what, or YouTube people, and they would provide information. And at the beginning, you're like a hungry dog, like, okay, well, that sounds.
I wonder how many emails they actually got from social media.
That sounds really great. And then you kind of, oh, okay, that was kind of crazy. But then there would be these nuggets. But then you have to worry about, because then, you know, I would send an email and say, hey, thank you for this information.
Okay, pay attention to what he says here. It made sense to me. So he would respond to a content creator, and thank them, and then off the record now.
I really want to look into it and get back with you. And then the next thing you know, that's on somebody's YouTube channel. Okay. And so now you can't trust that. And then you want to develop relationships where they're giving you information, but you're telling them, hey, this is off record. I'm not, you know, I'm not telling you anything about the case. Whatever this conversation is, even just that I'm communicating with you, that is off record. Those people that said that we wanted to create a narrative through the media and try this case through the media, that just isn't true. I mean, there was nothing that was ever said on record to anybody, you know, this is on record. And it was more about, can I get some information from you? But then we have the gag order to contend with. And by the way, you know, we had evidence that the gag order was violated.
So when they did speak to some people who shared information with them, those people pretty much couldn't wait to go back and communicate that. There was a lot of that going around early in the investigation, not early in the investigation, but early into all of this a few months back, where you could see that kind of. Certain creators would say certain things, you know, and not just on the defense side, prosecution side as well.
Right.
That's they're talking to somebody, right?
Yeah. And that's the dumbest thing ever. If you're a content creator and you think you might have a voice with the defense team, like if you think they might be listening to you and they respond to you in an email or something, and then you just go straight to YouTube with it, that's the dumbest freaking thing ever. Like,
that's clout chasing. That's for clicks. That's for views. Whatever you want to call it.
Yeah. No. Okay. But if I want the big haul, I'm saving that. Like, I'm preserving that relationship. I'm like, the integrity of this relationship is more important to me,
right,
than like 100 clicks or 100 views on tomorrow's live. Like,
now, I agree. If he had come out and says this is going to be on the record, okay, can you give me an official statement I can read or show whatever on the screen? Because you can say what you want about mainstream media, social media. We are just the same now because people are tuning into social media for their news, for the in-depth talks about the things. So we have to have some integrity level as well. We have to have some. I don't want regulations and all that kind of stuff, but I meant personally, you have to have some integrity. You have to kind of know when to and when not to. You know what I mean? What's best in the long haul, not
Well,
what's best in the moment is going to get me 1,000 views right here, right now.
well, that applies to mainstream media too, and
Right,
they do not
exactly.
they do not apply it to themselves. They do not. They will
Right.
be the first one to jump in and report on something that hasn't been verified, so they can have a million people watching their live stream of whatever it is that they're jumping into.
And
So
social media does it as well. So it's not just
yes,
a
yep.
mainstream media problem, it is a media problem. We have mass media at our fingertips. We know how fast
Yeah.
we can share information, receive information. Vetting that information takes a minute sometimes. Like Coffin Daffer, you should have vetted those fake Google searches by Rick Allen, but whatever. Um, that you can't always vet everything, but you can come out and talk about things and still talk about them responsibly if you want to talk about them. But if you're building a relationship like that, that is something you kind of want to keep on the down low, because you don't know what can come of that. What the information you dig up and find could actually help, but you don't need to announce that to the whole world. I mean, Ann Taylor even stated one time during one of the Koberger hearings, she was talking about witnesses in the case. And she said this witness, that, or this witness. And she said, and some witnesses have spoken to the media too much. What, really? Because there's a gag order, and I don't think anybody's talking to the media, but I know one person who talked a lot to social media. And now, what does that mean? She can't be a witness because she ran her mouth a little bit too much on the YouTube? You know what I mean? So it's just you know what I mean? It's a balancing act. We all gonna make mistakes and do things wrong, but it's adjusting and making sure you do it right. But in general, just having some integrity and a little bit of common sense goes a long way, especially if you're just not doing it to try to go out and get the scoop or the click or whatever. Basically, you have to know what you're talking about, Forrest says.
Very strong evidence by the state, by law enforcement. And, I asked I called the state police, their I guess, internal affairs, whatever division or whatever it might be called, over a lot of things that I thought was wrong and happening. And I believe that was one of them. Are they going to investigate their own leaks? Are they going to investigate these other things? Jerry Holman wanting to charge me with a crime was another one. That blew my mind. It's like a third world banana republic type of way to operate. Andy's going against me as of August 10th, 2023. It was a real difficult deposition for him, because I think up until that point in time, everybody was, Jerry Holman's the greatest thing since sliced bread. And then, we conducted a deposition, and Jerry was getting,
I don't know if I ever thought of Jerry
flambéed
Holman as the
by
greatest thing since sliced
questioners
bread.
like, what?
They all gonna learn Jerry Holman's is just a big old POS. Pokemon, yes, the Susan Morphew case is crazy. We need to do a deep dive on that one night. Bring everybody up to speed on that case who's not familiar. But the DA did get disbarred over there with her shenanigans, as she's putting it here. And there was what Profiling Evil podcast was named in a court filing. I guess something to do with the DA over there, and talking to him. So there you go. I mean, it's been going on for a long time, and this was before I saw YouTube warrants and different things coming down in the Koberger case. Well into the case, after everybody was talking about it, there was the Morphew case, and I think in the Brooks Houck Crystal Rogers case, they have subpoenaed a Nancy Grace podcast where he was a guest on there. I know in the Morphew case, the Profiling Evil guy, he's got he's got to go to court. So there's all kinds of ways that social media gets involved and can get close to these cases, but sometimes you got to be careful, and sometimes you might accidentally have things come out on your show that you didn't intend, right? I don't know if that's what happened over there on the Profiling Evil or the Nancy Grace. I think it was on Nancy Grace with Houck. He said incriminating things they knew weren't true or something of that nature. So, yeah, social media like can be evil or non-evil. It may help and may not help. Okay, yeah, we'll definitely do it because we're going to be taking a look at several upcoming cases, and that is one that I do want to review and get into. So we'll keep an eye out on that coming up.
Yeah, we got to keep our morning show going.
Yeah.
Why didn't you do this? And why didn't you do that? And the next thing I know, he, the leaks happened, and then he went down and talked to the special prosecutor and inquired about filing charges against me when there was no crime committed. I was, if anything, I was the victim of somebody coming in and doing something. And it's kind of, if you just think about how crazy that is, that the lawyer representing a guy that you are, going hard against, and you're trying to get him off the case. And, I would say to Doug Carter, and I said this I think I said it to the in their own investigative unit that is supposed to look at these types of things, the state police's unit. I don't know who it was that I talked to. He seemed like a nice guy, but I haven't heard boo from them since. I haven't heard boo from them. I don't know what became of anything that I told them. I was concerned
Pause for
about
just a second.
evidence. I was concerned about a lot of different things that were going on in this.
All right.
Look at his eyes. He has been through shit. He has been through the ringer. He looks so tired. His eyes look so tired. Like that's how you can tell. That's why when I was in Delphi, I wanted to see Richard Allen's eyes.
Mm-hmm.
When I was in Maricopa Superior Court, I wanted to see Lori Vallow-Daybell's eyes, because you can tell a lot just by looking at a person's eyes. And he looks so tired, and he looks and he openly admitted when Bob Motta interviewed him, he openly admitted that he has many regrets and things that he believes he could have done differently in the case. And he just said now in this interview that they've been like going through the ringer trying to figure out things they could have done better. So, I mean, but look at his eyes.
Oh yeah, it's the prep for the trial, all the things they had to do to get ready for the trial itself, and then going into the sentencing. And then it's the holidays with your family, and now it's like, can we get some rest now? Probably not. They're probably doing all they can to help with getting everything over to the appellate attorneys and whatever they do there. But
right.
yeah,
And there's almost an obligation to do these interviews. So they started out on social media. They're doing the social media rounds. They're doing some regular media rounds. I mean, and they're almost obligated to, because the state is also, Doug Carter did a press conference immediately after the sentencing. So, and then, anyway, those eyes look like he's been through it. Anyway.
Yeah, I agree. Where my comments go? There they are. Okay.
This case, and I went to their people there, and I haven't heard back. I've heard they've called me unethical. They've called the defense team unethical, and I have said this, and I will say this: we have an ethics panel here. I haven't done anything wrong, so I can say this with complete no worries at all. File something. Everything that I have said is backed up with facts, emails, depositions, tape recordings, or whatever. Those, to the degree that the law enforcement has taken things personally, I backed up everything that I said. They're, on the other hand, just going out with ad hominem, they're unethical. And file it then, file something, and let the ethics, the disciplinary commission figure something out. And I'm not worried about it. I'm just not worried about it because we didn't do anything wrong. I'm not perfect. I don't do everything right.
You do a lot right. To that extent, I was really troubled by the theme on December 20th of the defense counsel being unethical, that, you know, Brad and Andy somehow had something to do with that man's death. And this is by our top Indiana law enforcement. And if people believe this, you've now placed targets on our backs. And if something would happen to us, who's going to investigate?
Yeah.
The state police, the very people who put the targets on our backs.
What new evidence has come up since this case is wrapped up?
That's
Can't talk
deep.
about it.
Death threats,
Yeah, she's
targets
looking
on
at
their
it.
backs.
Can you?
Yeah, I mean, the minute they came out and made those statements, it's pretty slanderous statements to make. You know, no matter how they personally felt about the way the defense tried to handle their case, for them to come out of the gate and be so judgmental and to say the things they did say, like I still haven't heard an apology from them. We're sorry it took 5 years and our Kathy, little old baker lady over here, to find that tip. We're sorry because all that shit we told you for 5 years, we had the guy, we know more, we know this, we know that. You'll be surprised one day. Oh my gosh. Apparently you knew nothing because you never had a finger pointed toward that guy until Kathy found that piece of paper. But we won't talk about that, how horrible of an investigation you actually did, because you're going to stand out here instead and throw all this shade at these defense attorneys. It's ridiculous. And there are a lot of nutty people out there. We see it on the internet all day long. You know, there's threats made on either side. It goes both ways. It's sad. It gets to that level. You know,
It's sick. It's not just sad. It's sick.
it really it is, and it can be criminal, people. So Jesus.
All right, then let's talk. If you can't give me the specifics, talk about the process. Have you either continued to investigate, or new evidence, or new witnesses have come forward ever since the completion of the trial?
We'll be filing, I think, a motion to correct errors, to clean up the record on some things. Once that's done, the judge can either not rule on it and it's deemed denied in a certain period of time. She can deny it without a hearing. She can set it for a hearing. Once that's completed, then we have the notice of appeal to file.
If you were the appellate attorneys, what would you be hanging your hat on? Would you be hanging it on the evidence in the case?
Oh, he's not going to talk about this.
Administration of
He's not going to talk about this.
They're the experts. There's two really terrific appellate lawyers that I'm so happy are on this case. They are unbelievably smart. They are terrific writers, and you have to be great persuasive writers. And I will let them make that call. I mean, we will work with them.
He's not going to talk about it.
For sure, in terms of our thoughts and so forth. But ultimately, that's going to be up to them.
I'm assuming, though, you've got not only if there's new evidence, correct errors comes up, does correcting errors also extend to what the judge's rulings said, or the way she ruled, or often issue an order without a hearing?
Judge's rulings are the judge's rulings. She's not going to go back and rethink those now. We have some things in the record we need to clean up about.
And there's some new things and things that we've discovered since, and
Oh, he just said we have some new things.
Yeah.
He just said we have some new things. Holy crap!
They have some new things they have discovered. In hang on, let's see.
26.
I did not expect
that.
I did not expect that.
You have, we had pictures of bodies, and with no context. Just filtering through that. But you're so busy filtering through that in the investigation. There's, again, all of these social media, all of this stuff on the internet. And once you start diving through that and validating it, as attorneys, we can't say, hey, I saw this on an Apple discussion group and I think it's admissible, and introduce it. You've got some
Apple discussion group? Who goes into Apple discussion groups?
Evidence.
YouTube is where it's at.
But some of those people from YouTube may be in a discussion group,
Right.
and things that come to light during digging it could be turned over, and now something makes sense all of a sudden. Do you see what I'm saying? So they've probably found out more information about their third-party suspects even since trials concluded.
But he said we have some new stuff. I was not
Well,
expecting that.
Maybe new stuff pertaining to that. That's where I'm gathering from all this.
Gotcha. Okay.
You know, Pete, we're still, I mean, I presume Andy is, I know I am, getting emails from people. You know, I spent a lot of late nights sitting right here digging down, you know, emails from people, facts that they're putting forth in that context. It seems, wow, we need to look at this. And then you realize, okay, that was a dead end. So we're still getting emails from people about different suspects, different documentary evidence out there that we're tracking down.
And another thing is then when a trial is actually happening, and it's like a collision between live theater and improv, because you really don't know what's going to happen up on that stand. And there was a lot of that happening in this trial, but you don't know what people are going to say. You have, if you conduct depositions and so forth, you might have an idea, but then they may not even stick with what they've said in the past. So one of the things that could have happened that might, you know, we might be looking into is what was said by some of the witnesses on the stand that was unexpected, and what evidence did we unearth to kind of prove or show that what they said unexpectedly is not accurate. Because in real time, you can't necessarily find these things out. You listen to it and then you're like, wow, that was unexpected. Now what can we do? And then maybe you look at the evidence in a different way, or you find out, you get your investigators on it, and then they start searching for why that person's answer changed and how it impacts the case.
Did we learn more about the investigative technique and the investigative process simply because there was such a spotlight on this case, or the things you saw behind the scene with what you identified as the holes and the shortcomings in the investigation? Those are common in investigations. This one really sticks out because the mistakes were manifold and so multiplied, either because there were a lot more mistakes or because we just paid more attention to this than we do a typical dope dealer shooting in Indianapolis.
There, you know, before I ever got involved, Brad and Andy had done a fantastic job of digging down on a lot of the behind the scenes things. I think, you know, part of the issue was 5.5 years had passed before they honed in on Rick Allen. And I think at the beginning, everyone was doing the best they could to find the person who murdered 2 girls. But it, you know, too many Indians, not enough chiefs. So all this information, volumes and volumes of information is coming in that isn't being followed up on, and just because of the volume, right? I mean, they had over 14,000 tips. There were, in the FBI database, there's over 60,000 entries. And so, you know, I think legitimately mistakes were,
except for that one little old piece of paper that was apparently never entered anywhere but into a shoebox or a metal box.
The desk drawer. No, it was the desk drawer. That was Kathy's desk drawer that she found when they moved offices. Yeah. Actually, I asked Andrea Burkhart that day because she was just sitting just down from me, and when we heard Kathy testify, I was so confused. And I asked Andrea, and it seemed like she understood how that process went, but I still to this day do not understand how that lead sheet got filed away somewhere and magically appeared in Kathy Shank's drawer. I still to this day do not understand it, and how she related that to a misfiled investigation report.
How many other tips were
by
not
Officer Doolin?
Yeah. How many other tips were never found or filed into anything? Is that the only one out of the 60,000 in the FBI data bank?
Right.
And
Yeah. Was there literally one lead sheet that magically appeared in Kathy Shane's desk drawer when they
right.
moved offices?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Was it
Okay.
just Rick Allen's lead sheet? Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Oh, good Lord.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh.
I
OJ's spinning again.
every time.
We pause so often on this, which is why I can't believe that I
More of
got
a-
copyright
a,
violated.
Logical flow of
I
how
Because
we're
we
going
can't
to
get like
handle
stuff
we
and
can't get like 10 seconds through a
But,
video without stopping to
at
talk
some
about it.
point,
yeah.
they became very myopic. They became very, all right, we have somebody. And even though, I mean, as of the last day of trial or during the trial when Doug Carter testified, the Indiana State Police website on their homepage was asking for tips. So if they believe Richard Allen is a lone actor, why are you asking for tips?
Yeah, Kevin Murphy testified on August the
Ooh.
1st at preliminary
Ooh,
hearing.
there's a good logic point right there.
That they always said it was 2 to 3 people, as many as 5 to 6. It was never one. And
Yep.
Then all of a sudden they changed their narrative to, no, it is only one. And that just
Yep.
isn't accurate. It's not, I don't think it's honest. I just wish you could just be honest and just say,
I don't think it's
you know,
honest.
if you're going to
That means that an
try to
attorney
hang
is
the hat
saying
on Rick
that he
Allen,
believes
just say, you know what,
law
we were wrong
enforcement
about the
officers
2 to
have
3
perjured
or the 5 to
themselves.
6. It did seem like it took a lot
Without
of
saying
people
it,
to do
he's
this.
saying it.
And I guess we were just
Sorry,
wrong on
guys.
that. But they can't even, they have to just say, no, we
Don't
always
mean to
thought it
talk
was
over
one.
him.
Well, we considered the other, but we always thought that one was a possibility. No, they didn't, because if the crime scene does not lend itself to one person, 5'5"
That's called
Rick Allen,
perjury.
they're claiming the crime scene does not lend itself to one person in the middle of the afternoon on a sunny day, doing everything that was accomplished at that crime scene. And it doesn't make sense that even their blood spatter person, his testimony, could be interpreted as there had
It's
to be
only
multiple
January
people.
10th, and my New Year's
The lack
resolution
of
is
drag marks means that somebody had to pick,
being challenged.
the body up and move it to a different location, and there was no drag marks, and that just kind of gets glossed over. There was multiple. I mean, the evidence is, in my opinion,
Can you
very
replay
strong.
like that last minute? Because this is freaking huge. He's talking about the facts of the case, and he didn't really do that in Bob's interview. He's talking about the facts
Right.
of the case, and he's talking about law enforcement officers literally perjuring themselves. He doesn't word it that way, but I'm going to.
Oh yeah, he
This is
definitely
freaking huge.
says it.
Like,
Yep. Okay.
okay.
Why are you asking for tips?
Yeah, Kevin Murphy testified on August the 1st at preliminary hearing that they always said it was 2 to 3 people, as many as 5 to 6. It was never one. And then all of a sudden they changed their narrative to, no, it is only one. And that just isn't accurate. It's not, I don't think it's honest. I just wish you could just be honest and just say, if you're going to try to hang the hat on Rick Allen, just say, you know what, we were wrong about the 2 to 3 or the 5 to 6. It did seem like it took a lot of people to do this, and I guess we were just wrong on that. But they have to just say, no, we always thought it was one. No, we considered the other, but we always thought that one was a possibility. No, they didn't, because if the crime scene does not lend itself to one person, 5'5" Rick Allen is who they're claiming. The crime scene does not lend itself to one person in the middle of the afternoon on a sunny day, doing everything that was accomplished at that crime scene. And it doesn't make sense that even their blood spatter person, his testimony, could be interpreted as there had to be multiple people there, because the lack of drag marks means that somebody had to pick, the body up and move it to a different location. And there was no drag marks, and that just kind of gets glossed over. There was multiple. I mean, the evidence is, in my opinion, just very strong. There was multiple people involved.
And the sentencing, Nicholas McLeland said Richard Allen.
Wow, that's huge.
Yeah, that's I mean, that's what he has to say as a prosecutor, and I get that. So I presume he believes it. I
Pause,
presume that. So.
please.
Mm-hmm.
The evidence is very strong that there were multiple people involved. This is somebody who has seen all of the crime scene evidence in discovery, that has been involved in the case for years.
Mm-hmm. And they're not.
That is bound by ethical considerations on what he's allowed to say and not say. And
Yeah.
he's on public television saying, I believe that multiple people were involved. That's huge.
You get the multiple people involved. You get is the voice we hear saying down the hill the same person in the video, Bridge Guy video. That was never, they never proved that in court, that Richard Allen or the Bridge Guy person, because like I've always said, there's a damn good chance that Bridge Guy is Richard Allen. He said he was there. He said he was on the bridge. He said he was wearing clothes very similar to that. But we also know whoever that was way, 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 way far behind those girls. And then suddenly was there on the girls. Still doesn't mean that if that is Rick Allen in that video that he did something. But what I'm getting at is, what if that was him on the bridge walking? Because the way that when True Grit did her interview with that investigator, the way she described that video was the same way Bob described it, where how they're walking and you see nobody behind them, or you see nobody behind Abby, and then suddenly the guy's there. But she said it appeared to her that he was walking way back there, and as you're walking across those rickety boards, you're taking certain kinds of steps, and it appeared he stepped out to the side for a second and stepped over a board, then back in line. Well, when he did, it brought him into view of that camera, and then back over in line behind Abby, where he couldn't be seen again. But he was a long way back there. So even if that was Rick Allen, you still didn't prove he's the one that said guys down the hill. Period. There's no way to know that, I guess, unless
No,
you
Tony Liggett knows. Tony Liggett knows. He said it's not humanly
Right.
possible
Well,
that it was anybody else.
Well, fuck that. With Tony Liggett can. Yeah, I got choice words for Tony Liggett.
You're gonna break my New Year's resolution for me.
Yeah, I don't have that resolution. Fuck yeah. But even Bob said that you don't see Rick Allen's mouth move when you hear the voice. You don't. I think they say the camera's even looking down toward the bridge at that point. You don't see an image of anybody when you hear the voice. So we don't know who it was. You know, they have these defense attorneys have such a great points, but why the jury didn't hear them the way we've heard them, I don't know, you know.
That is a very valid point, and
I don't get it.
Obviously, probably a source of frustration for them. But on the other hand, Judge Gohl ruled what they were allowed to bring in and what they weren't with an iron fist, and she always ruled in favor of. Well, I won't say always. She generally ruled in favor of the prosecutor.
And even I know there's so much more we know the jurors didn't know, but damn, even with what was happening in the courtroom and with the judge, I don't know, maybe she tried to be better in the courtroom so it didn't appear she was this like mega bitch. But yeah, so here we go.
Actually, no, whenever I saw her in person, I mean, I didn't think that she was like the way that I feel about her now is not how I saw her in person. So I have no doubt the jury probably also didn't get to see the side of her that we see from a true crime aspect.
Yeah.
Which is probably why I'll never be on a jury, because they're going to bring me in and they're going to be like, hey, do you have any hobbies? And I'm like, yeah, true crime is kind of my hobby. They're going to be like, you're out.
No, you're never going to be allowed to stay on. You'll be too critical. Be jumped up. No, I don't think they did that. Where's my microphone? We're going live.
You know, Rich Allen was 50 years old when he was arrested, never charged with a crime before that, never convicted of a crime. There is nothing in his background that would suggest that he could do something like this.
Is Richard Allen's wife in danger behind bars?
Well, in my experience, Russ, here's what happens once there's a sentence. A sentence is handed down. Then the person returns to the jail, usually the county jail, almost always the county jail in the county where their case was, and they sit there for a number of days, maybe even weeks, sometimes even months, waiting for the Department of Corrections to come pick them up and take them to what's called the RDC, or Regional Diagnostic Center, and that's where a battery of tests are run, and they're trying to determine which is the best facility for this person to go to. And that takes 30, 45 days, typically a number of weeks. And I usually tell my clients' family, like, you're not gonna be able to talk to him while he's at the RDC. Count on it, 3 to 4 weeks minimum. But yet in this case, Richard Allen was taken on the day of sentencing to RDC. And then I believe it was 6 days later was taken back to Westville. And so you ask, is he in danger?
Did you see his eyebrows?
I mean, can we just have some common
Did
sense?
you see his reaction to that?
Can we just, at least have the appearance that people care? I understand that he's been convicted now of killing 2 girls, but with everything and all this attention going on, the intentionality, the boldness, if you will, of sending him back to Westville instead of Newcastle, where they have a mental health kind of wing. Can you just try to at least look, like the appearance of being fair or something?
Damn.
I don't get it. Maybe there's great reasons why they sent him up there so quickly. But now it's my understanding they're not even allowed to talk to him. Family can't talk to him for a few weeks. Is that accurate?
DOC policy is after 2 weeks when they're.
Isn't that crazy? That whole thing. I mean, that's so out of that. That's violating even more rights.
Well, we have, so
I mean,
in the true crime world, we kind of have this thing where we're conspiracy minded a little bit, right? Like that's kind of why we're here. So we kind of know this about the Indiana Department of Corrections, but to have his defense attorney on public record, on public TV, come out and say, can we just have some appearance of fairness on this, is crazy to me. This interview is just blowing my mind like you wouldn't believe. And
oh yeah,
I wish we had more people watching this, because it's insane to me.
Well, I think though some will catch it on replay, and I think it's making the rounds, or the interview is out now. So I think people are gonna be able to see it now. I just saw it on Twitter to it, actually. Because I saw it this morning on my YouTube. When I had my morning coffee, I always get on YouTube and look through the news stuff or whatever. And there it was. I was like, oh, okay. So I remember hearing there was going to be an attorney interview coming up on mainstream, but I forget where I saw it, who it was. And then I saw this. So anyway.
Just his candor is breathtaking to me. Like Andy Baldwin's candor is breathtaking to me, and maybe that's why he got struck off of the court order yesterday that All Eyes shared with us.
Are you sure about that, Kelt? We have our moments, huh? We couldn't do this without you guys. Them to come out and speak so openly, we all have been feeling a certain kind of way about the case and the trial to begin with. And then, we've been wanting to hear what their thoughts are. So I'm glad that they are able to come out and talk about it now. And they're not up there with that arrogance of Carter and McClellan saying, yeah, well, here's what we got to say about that, and what do you mean what specific other suspects do? Don't make me wish I had been Barbara that day. McDonald questioning him, because they wouldn't. I'd be that one reporter. They're like, "Oh heck, here she comes! Like, get her out of here."
Lindsay says she's listening to the juror interview, and is convinced it was fixed. So the thing I have to say about that is what I've said all along since the sentence was handed down, since the verdict came in and the sentence was handed down. We wouldn't be trying this on social media if the police had done their freaking job.
Exactly. I'm so mad about that still. I'm so tired of hearing about the great job they did. No, y'all couldn't put all that off on Kathy. You know, I'll bite for a minute. Richard Allen's your guy. Yay for you. You didn't catch him. She did. Because somebody misfiled a real important tip. And then somebody that damn tip.
Cookie Grandma that came up from Florida had to catch the killer.
Yeah. The cookie bacon, floor sweeping, ex-child protection services worker who knew Robert Ives, the former prosecutor, who's been well outspoken against this case. He didn't see it the way McClelland sees it, but he was able to squash his subpoena to come testify for some reason. I don't know what he's got there he don't want to delve off into, but it's something. But yes, she claims she knew him from the past, all these things.
She did, yep.
Yeah, so, but
with
still.
With her work with the DPS, yes.
You come out now and we find out you got sticks on the victims that you tossed to the side because you didn't think they were relevant until 2.5 weeks later. You got this crazy bullet firing system that you use for your ballistic testing. You got strands of hair everywhere that were never tested, saving for future use for what, we don't know. We got tip lines that are still open. We have sketches that we shoved down your throats for years that no longer matter. Like,
that were not allowed in court. They weren't even allowed in court.
They no longer matter. We're not even bringing them into court to forget about them.
Lindsay, no, that's not typical. No, the jurors cannot talk amongst themselves in 99.9% of courtrooms. When they're dismissed,
they're in deliberation. Yeah.
Yes. Until they get to deliberation, yes, they can talk about it.
But jury tampering and things of that nature have gone on in the past. We can't close our eyes and be like blind to that shit. We had the egg lady fiasco over there in the Murdaugh trial, where they were absolutely talking about, and we had the clerk of court going in there and talking to the jurors when she wasn't supposed to. There's all kinds of things that was going down, and that got a lot of attention. Damn near caused a mistrial over there. I mean, it was bad. It was bad. Jury tampering, especially in small communities, right? Everybody knows everybody, but these are Allentown. We have an Allentown. Allen County. I live next to an area called Allentown, but Allen County jurors came over. So does that make a difference? It should, but don't think jury tampering cannot happen or that they won't talk amongst themselves when they shouldn't. I mean, people are people. Humans are going to do human stuff. You would hope they're all going to be on the up and up and follow all of the directions, but
yeah. So here's the thing that is Joe Schmoe 50,000 foot perspective on the jury. I saw the jury. There was a juror member that was seated on the top row, far right, that while I was observing the court proceedings, was paying almost no attention to the court proceedings. I think maybe he had a notebook, and I think he maybe wrote some things down from time to time, but he was also spending a good deal of time surveying the gallery. Like, he and I made eye contact more than once.
I wonder,
dude, what are you doing? But the other thing that I noticed was that jurors had really relevant, intelligent questions, which gave me hope that they were like paying attention and they might come back. But somebody said that the most intelligent of those questions was coming from what's not a spare juror, what's the word I'm looking for? An alternate juror. Like the alternate juror, like one of the alternate jurors was the ones that was asking the most intelligent questions.
But didn't get to make a vote because they weren't needed in the end.
Right. Exactly. So There,
Isn't
I
that
have
funny?
questions.
It makes you wonder, yeah, because once that jury was seated, did both sides have privy to that information, to who these jurors were? Was there anything going on behind the scenes that should be brought to light one day? I don't know. I don't want to make no kind of accusations. We'll have to see.
Yeah, right. Yes, we got to
And
be
I
careful.
do, Lindsay, I will be checking out that interview so we can have some commentary on that. You can't play their interview. They will certainly strike you in a heartbeat,
Oh,
but I can
shit.
go and
Yep.
listen. I can certainly listen to it and take notes and come back and talk about it all I want. So,
Yeah, I just don't want to give them the clicks and views. I mean, they're going to get plenty of them anyway without me. So one less or one more is not going to make a lick of difference. But I just,
yeah, I'll
I
do
have
it
a,
just because I want to hear that interview.
all right, I'll let you do it. Yes, let's
Yeah.
just one of us do it. So
You'd
you're
be
assigned to that.
surprised. You'd be surprised at some of the people I will listen to simply because I need to hear the interview itself, because I want
right.
to focus on the person being interviewed and what that person's saying. So I try to tune out the people doing the interviews. Oh God, I torture myself. I'll take one for the team.
Yes, that's your assignment. You got to take one for the team on
Kathy
this.
tells us they told her 6 to 8 weeks. I don't know why they consistently treat Richard Allen differently than any other person charged with or convicted of a crime in this state. Westville wasn't able to keep him safe when he was there the first time. By their own doing, they made him unsafe. By their failure to properly diagnose, their failure to properly treat, the failure to keep him safe under his conditions of confinement, they put him at danger with his mental health. And there's no reason to think, because they're continuing to treat him differently than any other person in the state of Indiana, there's no reason to think they're going to do anything different this time. And now he's being guarded by the very people we cross-examined in court. That's a problem.
Yeah. When I sat there and I watched the jury, and of course during the sentencing, the judge made remarks, and she felt Richard Allen had been rolling his eyes during the trial at her, but I was watching the jury watch him or watch the evidence, and you could feel there was a lot of uneasiness on that jury, whether it was directed at the evidence or him. I don't know. I mean, there were people looking at the clock saying, I got to get out of this courtroom. What did you pick up from watching the jury or the way they watched your client?
Richard, that's always a tough thing. We talked about that in jury selection with the jury. Like, you're going to be here a long time, whoever is chosen. You're going to be looking right at him during testimony, when people are testifying. How's Rick reacting to it during crime scene photos being posted and so forth? And if you're innocent, he's a human being, and therefore he can react like we all would react to upsetting crime scene photos, upsetting testimony, hearing the grandmother testify about losing her granddaughter. That's going to be upsetting. And so what's the jury supposed to, should he cry, should he not cry? So we covered that in jury selection, and hopefully they, with the idea that they would go back there and say that should not be something that we factor in. So I hope that they didn't factor anything into that. I mean, I sat next to Rick most of the trial, and what I told him to do was write out, we gave him yellow pad after yellow pad, and he would just write out the testimony. And then when there was photos, I asked him to put it into 4 quadrants and start with the upper left and just describe detail on what's on there, because I wanted him engaged, because if he's not engaged, that might say something to them. If he is engaged, but it's very complicated and difficult to know what to do. By the way, Jerry Holman was sitting right next to us and kept looking at Rick's notes, and that was very bothersome to me, to the point that I had to say, Jerry, stop looking at his notes. It's
Damn, Jerry, mind your business.
I can't believe that he was allowed to be in the court the whole freaking time.
Sitting that close. Remember in the interview he was saying something about giving Rick Allen water,
Yes.
and picking up his glasses, because you're right damn well they're hoping to intimidate the whole time. I'm gonna
not just him, but possibly the jury too, right? Like,
wow,
that happened in Karen Reed, where when they went in for final statements, the family and the witnesses were allowed to go sit in the gallery during final arguments in Karen Reed. And that's just wrong. That's just our justice system. Our justice. I haven't even been drinking yet.
Yeah, I would have been like, Mr. Holman, excuse me, you are all up in my personal space. Get out. 6 feet for
But
the 6
but
feet.
Judge Gohl said he was allowed to be in there.
I don't care.
And
6 feet. We still
and
have.
the other one was Mullen was allowed to be in there too. There were 2 police officers that were allowed to sit in court for the entire trial that were key witnesses in the trial. That's just
Holman must be the biggest and the baddest the state of Indiana has. Let's send Mr. Intimidator in there. We'll get the job done.
Well, we know what Sleuthy called her little video review before it was copyright violated.
Well, the title wasn't copyrighted. She did a good pig roast over there. Good.
I wasn't going there, but because this is your channel, but you're allowed to go there because
we're allowed to say the title. Sleuthy Goosey. Yes, indeed. All right, here we go.
He said that he wasn't, but whatever. I mean, maybe I'm being petty, but come on. I mean,
you're not being petty. You're being realistic, dude.
The question is, if he did it, the jury said he did, what's he doing on the bridge that day? The other question is, what are the girls doing on the bridge that day? Why didn't the defense bring up all this Anthony shot stuff that maybe that was their motivation to be on the bridge that day?
Keegan Klein was the subject of the motion in limine. We weren't allowed to.
Yep. And we weren't allowed to talk about that. Yeah, for those who say that we don't have hearts and we don't care, they weren't in here when we're crying, looking at crime scene photos, or getting upset, or getting emotional about the thought of.
I believe you were. I believe you were,
Andy. Oppose the families. I thought, I think one of the Holman or Carter said that we disrespected the family. I think, or some words to that effect. Read the depositions of the families that when I took their depositions. I think Brad and I and Jennifer, I don't
pause for just a second.
Some of those depositions, thought we were very respectful. I thought we were very nice. We were trying to be.
There we go.
This guy is a real human being. Mm-hmm. And if I were going to battle, I would want him on my team.
Yeah.
Absolutely, 100%.
It's got the heart to put in it, and that you got to have that sometimes. You need it. You need all the smarts you can get, yes, but you also got to have somebody with that fire and that heart to get in there and really go to battle for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
As considerate to their feelings, yet trying to find out, for example, they didn't take Kelsey's phone and do a phone dump to help the timeline, to help establish the timeline. And that's real tricky because you want to talk about that as a deficiency in the investigation, yet you don't want it to appear as if you're going after Kelsey German, and which I wasn't. And so you have to do your job, yet you have to be, and so we try to do it respectfully. And I understand, listen, when you're us, they have to not like you. When they have to think, I understand they don't have to, but I understand why they would, and I don't hold that against them. I really don't.
Andy was incredibly nice and delicate in the depositions of the family members, probably more than I would have been. But look, I have children. One of the hardest things in this case, something hits differently, was I was going through all the cell phone data and all the pings and thinking about those girls' parents. Every 15 minutes that they're pinging that phone, and you get your hopes up. I mean, I watch my kids on, the Find My iPhone, whatever, because I worry about them. And I mean, I was in Bloomington for a mom's weekend, up late working on his case, going through those, crying, thinking about we're humans and we're nice people. Well, not everyone thinks I'm nice. Everyone thinks he's nice.
No,
but
well,
regardless, here's the thing. There is no justice for Abby Williams and Liberty German if you convict the wrong person. All of that
Pause.
is double the tragedy.
Just replay that. Just replay what she just said. That's been my point all along.
Mm-hmm. Oh Lord, let me.
Oh, dang it. Sorry.
Usually if I have to stop the screen and put it back, it works then. Okay.
Thinking about those girls' parents, every 15 minutes that they're peeing that phone and you get your hopes up. I mean, I watch my kids on, the Find My iPhone, whatever, because I worry about them. And I mean, I was in Bloomington for a mom's weekend, up late working on his case, going through those, crying, thinking about we're humans and we're nice people. Well, not everyone thinks I'm nice. Everyone thinks he's nice.
No,
but
well,
regardless, here's the thing.
Here's the thing.
There's no justice for Abby Williams and Liberty German if you convict the wrong person. All of that does is double the tragedy, double the injustice. If Richard Allen is not guilty, there are still killers out there. That's not justice. Putting Richard Allen in a torturous condition isn't justice. I think it's not justice even if he did it, but this isn't.
I think she just summed it up perfectly.
And that's what we dedicate our lives to. That's what we are obviously passionate about. And
I want that 20-second clip like
client
on replay.
and be mindful and respectful and mournful for the families and the friends of Abby and Libby. Those aren't mutually exclusive.
Yeah, I think if my guess is, and I could be totally wrong here, is that the families are somewhat, if not very much so, influenced by what law enforcement say. And law enforcement obviously has such a deep-seated, I don't know if I want to say hatred, but a deep-seated issues with us as defense lawyers. I don't know that anybody's ever gone up against them, as vigorously as we have. And maybe they're not used to that, but I worry that the family has been influenced. There's a case recently in Indiana, by the way, that it was a family, a guy. I wish I had the case, and we can talk about it now, and maybe you can look it up. But this happened within the last year, where a guy was in jail or prison. He said, "I'm innocent." The defense pointed to another suspect. The families believed he did it. Law enforcement convinced the families that he did it, and then years later it was confirmed that he did not do it, yet the other guy did it. And now that family has aligned with the defense lawyers, and and they're I think they're suing the police, saying, "You led us astray," and that kind of hit home to me.
Whatever happened to your client's?
That's big.
What happened to mine? What happened to yours? I mean,
he had 23 devices, so he obviously.
Well, that's not.
This whole interview
that's
is
not really
like
accurate, but
blowing my mind.
Some of those were not.
I'll say it again.
Well, I mean, he's got chargers, he's got pagers, he's got other stuff. But he just seems like a guy that's got a lot of stuff. And then if you ask the question, whatever happened to his 2017 phone? I don't know. Did anybody ever look at his phone records from February and March of that year to see who he was calling before and after, because if he had any unusual phone calls, or it's the same 5 people he's always talking?
That would have been great. I mean,
why did you do it?
We did.
And what'd you find?
I think he called his benefits manager at CVS.
Yeah.
So
there are no phone calls on there to any alleged co-conspirators?
No. And they looked for that. They compared, the mutual friends on social media in terms of Rick and Kathy. Shockingly, the only mutual connection was, I think, a pizza place or something, if I recall. But they looked at that. We've looked at. There's nothing there.
Richard provided his phone, and they took the EIN off of that. So where is the phone? Well, did he get rid of the car that they said that he used? Did he get rid of the clothing that they said that he used that I never saw admitted into evidence, by the way? Did he get rid of, did he move? Did he leave? Did he continue to stay there? I mean, it just doesn't add up. I mean, I'm a guy that has had how many cell phones in my life? I couldn't, one's here and one's there and some are hither and there. So.
He just said something I didn't think about. The clothes they took from Rick Allen's house that day, the blue Carhartt jacket, the different things, they didn't present those in court as any kind of evidence.
No, nope.
Only the bullet, or only the gun that they claim the bullet came from.
No, and
So even
and
assuming
not
there
a
was go ahead.
not a single eyewitness pointed to Rick Allen in court and said that's Bridge guy or that's the guy that I saw that day. Not a single one. No clothing, no eyewitnesses.
Did they not bring in that clothing because there was just no DNA on it? You know, which after 5 years, what's going to be left anyway? But so
and no DNA in his car either. No DNA evidence of the girls inside of his car.
Oh,
which,
probably not. Yeah, come back and get your car. Oh wait, we're going to accidentally interrogate you. Yeah, why weren't those clothes ever admitted into court if they were any kind of, you know, apparently they were not significant at all.
I hadn't thought of that either.
All right, in your post-mortem, ever since November 11th, did you guys ever sit around and say, well, you know what? Maybe if we'd have said this one thing, maybe it would have turned it around, or was it just a tidal wave of evidence? And if so, what was that one thing?
Tidal wave of evidence? Wait, what? Wait.
Or unmaximized that maybe would have turned it.
I don't think that's the way trial lawyers think is that way.
Go ahead.
The reporter just asked him, and I can't believe this is a television interview, and the reporter's voice is like a third of the volume of the people that he's interviewing. But besides that fact, he just asked if it was a tidal wave of evidence that convicted his client.
Like, heck no, it was a misunderstanding of the fake evidence. I don't know.
I don't know, but tidal wave. This reporter literally just asked Andy Baldwin if it was a tidal wave of evidence that convicted his client.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's more of did we, in a more general way, did we lawyers focus on the right things? It's not as much as I should have asked that question. Now that's a part of the process in the postmortem. Should I, the craft of what we do is more broad than that. And so it's like, should we have focused more on the timeline? That would be a thought of mine, is because if they hung their hat on the confessions, and Brad Rosie, by the way, he's not here. And I just want to say, I don't know whether this will air or not, but Brad Rosie had the most difficult job of all the lawyers, because he had to deal with, watching the videos. He had to deal with watching the videos of Richard Allen, being treated the way that he was treated, and putting that all together and doing all that, and also the ballistics. And Brad just did a terrific job of that. But, when I analyze it, and I mean, one thing I think is the timeline was so problematic for the state that maybe if I had to look back at it, I'd say maybe we should have focused more on that, because that would, the so-called confessions, if the timeline doesn't work, then nothing else matters. And so that would be one thing that I was thinking about, just in a more generic way. It wasn't like I should have asked that question or I should have asked that question. It's like presentation. I mean, I did the opening statement, and so I did a lot of hard thinking about that. Should I have done something different on that? Because that's the first opportunity for a jury to kind of hear how the evidence might unfold and what we are going to focus on. So I did a lot of soul searching about the opening statement and things like that. It's more broad than what you're talking about.
Did the jury get it wrong, or they came to the only answer that was available to them?
I think that there was plenty of reasonable doubt. I think that the headphones in and the headphones out blows their theory apart to pieces. The fact that not one witness identified Richard Allen. I don't know what the jury hung their hats on. they came back and very intently listened to statements in the video. I would be really concerned if the state of our justice is that the jury listened to the video of Bridge Guy and listened to Brian Harshman testify that Richard Allen is the voice of Bridge Guy.
Mm-hmm.
Brian Harshman has no background training experience to make that comment.
Neither does Tony Liggett. Neither does Tony Liggett.
And so that would be disappointing.
Why didn't you guys do voice analysis? If they didn't do it, why didn't you do it to disprove it?
We don't have funds.
Yeah, there's
And
that.
and when I say they could have done voice analysis, let me back up and say, I mean, how
Pause,
many seconds
please.
was Bridge Guy's voice was on that video?
I think that they tried.
Mm-hmm.
That's exactly what I hoped the jury would do, would be to ask for those special headphones that Tony Liggett used to make his opinion that Bridge Guy was Richard Allen.
Yeah.
I wanted them to ask for those special headphones so they could hear it too. And I'm pretty sure that they didn't, but I don't know for sure because I know they asked for some stuff and they got some more stuff, but I don't know what they got. And I'm pretty sure they didn't get those special headphones that Tony Liggett used, where he said it's not humanly possible for somebody else to be at the south end of the bridge where the girls were, besides Richard Allen. Anyway.
Yeah, I mean,
That's
does that man even remember what headphones he used that day? Where'd he get them from? FBI? I mean, CIA? Where'd you get them from?
ISP probably has their own special headphones.
Walmart? Oh, shit.
Oh no, ISP would have lost the headphones.
I remember they did try voice analysis, and it's kind of a, it's kind of a field that's not, you can't really trust it. So I don't think that ultimately, I agree with Jennifer. And one thing I want to say about Brian Harshman is, the van was a big deal for those that paid close attention to the case. And Harshman stood up on the stand under oath and said, that Richard Allen would be the only person that would know about it. And it wasn't out there in the public domain. And that's just not accurate. I don't know whether, he knew that or not, but a quick Google search would find that there was 20 to 25 just quickly of van being out there in the public domain between 2017 and 2022, which means Dr. Walla, who was, a Delphi fanatic, could have gone to Rick. I don't know whether Rick ever said anything about a van. I don't know whether Walla was not telling the truth.
He called her a Delphi fanatic.
Oh, and he just said, I don't know if Dr. Walla was not telling the truth.
Mm-hmm. They don't trust her. You can't trust her.
Like this interview is blowing my mind, like more than the interview that Defense Diaries had.
Oh yeah, because that was more like just conversation. I don't know, a different type of conversation, right? So I get it. But you call her a Delphi fanatic, being all up in them groups, and just call her. She's a true crimer. She's a true crime lady. But damn. I'm not even up in the Facebook groups because they get on my nerves over there. I'll be getting an argument with somebody and got banned, thrown out or whatever. But yeah, that's pretty good shade. I liked that. Sorry. He's
throwing a lot of shade on a lot of people here, like Doug Carter, Coleman, Walla. Yeah, oh, absolutely. But
he's doing a way better, more professional job at it, right? Than Mr. McClellan and Carter did in their little press conference.
His credibility is there because he's been there from the beginning, right? So he knows the evidence. He's seen the evidence. He's been through discovery multiple times because he got taken off the case and then put back on the case.
Yeah.
So and he's an attorney and he's bound by ethics, and what he can and can't say is very strictly regulated by those ethics. So that's why this interview is blowing my mind because he's saying things that I never thought I would, even if he thought them out loud, even if they're sitting in their attorney's conference and they're like, I think Wall is lying on the stand. He's not going to come out and say it. And that's kind of what he's saying right now. That's kind of what he just said. He just said that out loud on television.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's like the gag order is lifted. We can talk what we can safely talk about. We're going to talk about, and I don't blame them. Thank you, Forrest, for saying that. And look, Kelt's giving you some love there, Forrest. But yes, Forrest is my newest mod, other than Joe and Danger, and doing a great job. And my first sub. Thank you, and thanks, Kelt. Thank you guys for coming in and hanging out with us this morning. We'll let this finish out, and it's almost over, I think.
About that, she destroyed her notes, and it wasn't audio taped. By the way, can we talk about lawyers being videotaped while they're trying to have a consultation with their lawyer? Can I talk about that for a second? I mean, we're in Westville, and these two guys come in with a camcorder, and then they require, for us to even have a consultation with Richard, they require him to face them so that they can read his lips on video, 6-8 feet away. I don't know. It was probably about that. And we had no choice if we wanted to talk to him. Folks, that's just not, that's not normal. All right. And nobody seems to care. It's bizarre. We just had to sit and take it if we wanted to have a consultation with our client. And nobody has explained why that was done. Richard Allen was in handcuffs and so forth. And if it was for our safety or something, that doesn't make sense. They could have, even just being there was a problem, let alone videotaping it. It's outrageous, but nobody seems to care. Nobody has done anything about it. Nobody said anything about it. Can somebody do something about that? I know from, I just remember I have memories of them being behind us videotaping, and so you're like, trying to talk as quietly as you can. And I mean, nothing that would be bad for us. It's just us trying to explain to Richard. Part of it had to be, here's where we're at, here's what's going on. We're trying to assess how with it he is, because it was happening, after the first round of confessions. I mean, we were with Richard within hours of that, and he was a completely different person. I mean, he's completely different. I had seen him on March let's see, I think it was March 24th. I had been to Westville, and it was like on a Friday, and I had met with Rick, and you could see him deteriorating to some degree from November of 2022 to March, but it wasn't really anything what I would label as crazily significant. He was depressed and so forth, but then on April the 3rd, we went up there, and he was a different person. He was just a totally different person, behaving completely differently. And that's when they started videotaping, and they wouldn't let us bring our phones in anymore. I mean, it was, I don't know what to say about it.
All right. Is there anything else folks need to know or understand about your defense of your client, the verdict, and where the appeals process goes from here?
I would like to address for a moment this statement made by, I believe it was Doug Carter at the press conference on December 20th, where he said, justice has been done, and if you don't like justice in this country, then leave.
That last minute that
moral,
Andy was
ethical,
talking
real problem
is
with that.
huge. It might be
Richard
worth
Allen
listening
has
to
a right to an
again,
appeal,
because that has to
and
do
it
with
was
his mental
very
health
disturbing
and his
throughout the
his
sentencing,
mental health
throughout the
status
impact
changed from March to
statements,
April.
at the press conference, these pleas to him not to appeal. If you have a secured conviction, if you have a righteous conviction, you don't need to do that. He has a constitutional right to appeal his conviction. And to tell people not to question that is dangerous.
He also had a constitutional right to speak up and give a statement at his sentencing, and chose not to do that.
What are you going to say, Russ?
Yeah.
I'm not guilty. I didn't do this. I don't know that he rolled his eyes to Judge Gull. I mean, I'll take her at her word. I was sitting next to him. I didn't see it, but I wasn't looking at his face. But, why would you not roll your eyes at a verdict that is unjust, that is untrue? I mean, if that happened. And I'm not doubting Judge Gold. I'm guessing it did happen, but I mean, for the top law enforcement officer to say the things that Jennifer just described about you can leave the country, again, that's some third world banana republic type of way of thinking.
I agree. And I'm glad she addressed that with Doug Carter. And oops, let me get this down for a second. And like Joe was saying, what they were saying there at the very end, there was a lot of good things said in that interview, right, Joe? And Joe's still with us. No, he's on mute.
Dang it, I was muted.
You're muted. I thought he missed a ran to the bathroom or something to the back.
I did. You caught me.
But that was huge. The whole interview was good. And they did say some things that were surprising, that they were not surprising, but the surprising that they were finally able to say them, They
were surprising to me that an attorney would just like speak out like that. And that last part, I was on mute, so you didn't get to hear it, but I wanted to rehear that last part that Andy said about how he visited him in March and he appeared to be maybe a little bit depressed, but fairly normal. But when he went back in April, he definitely was not the same human being that he was in March. And that's when the confessions started happening.
Right. Let me get, because
I mean, that was, man, he says so many things in this. It's hard to keep up with all of them.
Hang on one second.
Like that very last minute that Andy was talking was just, but it's so relevant to the case because that's when the confessions started happening. It was like in that last minute. March to April of 2023.
Play. What's it doing here? Okay.
Hey, Ping Peony, good to see you. Thanks for coming in.
Sorry, they're talking about the ban. Okay, hold on. Let me get the screen back up here. Where does it get up here? Okay. Let's see if this is the spot or not. Let's see.
Fanatic could have gone to Rick. I don't know whether Rick ever said anything about a van. I don't know whether Walla was not telling the truth about that. She destroyed her notes. So
these are huge facts of the trial.
While they're trying to have a consultation with their lawyer. Can I talk about that for a second? I mean, we're in Westville, and these two guys come in with a camcorder, and then they require, for us to even have a consultation with Richard, they require him to face them so that they can read his
bullshit
on video, 6-8 feet away. I don't know. It was probably about that. And we had no choice if we wanted to talk to him. Folks, that's just not, that's not normal. All right.
It's not normal.
It's bizarre.
This is a guy that's been practicing defense lawyering for 30 years.
We had to sit and take it if we wanted to have a consultation with our client.
We had to sit and take it.
Nobody has explained why that was done.
Oops.
Richard Allen was in handcuffs and so forth, and if it was for our safety or something, that doesn't make sense. They could have, even just being there was a problem, let alone videotaping it. It's outrageous, but nobody seems to care. Nobody has done anything about it. Nobody said anything about it. Can somebody do something about that? I know from, I just remember I have memories of them being behind us videotaping, and so you're like, trying to talk as quietly as you can, and I mean nothing that would be bad for us. It's just us trying to explain to Richard. Part of it had to be here's where we're at, here's what's going on. We're trying to assess how with it he is, because it was happening, after after the first round of confessions.
Can you pause for just a second?
Hours of that,
Mhm.
and he was a completely different person. I mean, he's completely different.
Yeah.
He's getting ready to talk about how completely what he was from March to April, but for a defense lawyer who's been practicing law for 30 plus years to say what he's saying about that experience, where they were recording their conversations with their client from 6 to 8 feet away, is insane.
Libretto said the same thing when the replacement attorney, when he went to Westville to meet with Rick Allen, that they were in like a kitchen, and there was a makeshift cell in that kitchen where they locked him in, like a tiny little cell. Like, I guess that's where you would put someone who was going to eat, that had to be caged at all times. And they're like the little openings to slide paperwork in and out. He said it was incredibly crazy, the conditions that they had to meet under. You know what I mean? If you don't have the proper space to hold meetings like that, you shouldn't be housing pretrial detainees there.
Oh no, they have proper facilities. They have like, so I'm
No,
gonna.
they tried to claim they did. They tried to. Their statement was they didn't, because normally you have prisoners who only get appeal attorneys in and out, right? But this is
but they still have to have confidential conversations with their attorneys.
Of course. I mean, we know that that's supposed to be the way it is. But
so I'm gonna put on Twitter in hopefully this evening, because my brain fog is actually clearing up. This conversation and this live is really good for me because I feel like my brain fog is finally clearing up. Good. But I'm gonna put on Twitter an audit that was done of the Westville Correctional Facility like 5 years ago. And there's like 46 buildings on the campus. There's like 46 buildings. You're going to tell me there's not one single room in 46 buildings where attorneys can have a confidential conversation with their client?
Right. No, they got to take in their camcorders and record all of it. And good. Don't even try to claim safety. You got how many armed guards standing there? You can put the guy in a straitjacket where he can't move. The attorney,
even if he busts out of the room and he busts out of the building, he's not going anywhere.
Right.
He's not. Yeah, that's.
You can't say it was for the attorney's safety or the other prisoner's safety. All the things you're gonna try to claim. Wonder how safe he is today, because he's back in that same prison.
Yep, and he's getting ready to say something really, really significant, though.
Right, well, here we go.
I had seen him on March let's see, I think it was March 24th. I had been to Westville, and it was like on a Friday, and I had met with Rick, and you could see him deteriorating to some degree from November of 2022 to March, but it wasn't really anything what I would label as crazily significant. He was depressed and so forth, but then on April the 3rd, we went up there, and he was a different person. He was just a totally different person, behaving completely differently. And that's when they started videotaping, and they wouldn't let us bring our phones in anymore. I mean, it was, I don't know what to say about it.
All right. Is there anything else folks need to know or understand about?
That's it. That was just freaking huge. So somewhere between the end of March and the beginning of April. And this is a defense attorney that used the term crazily significant in talking about his client. He's like, at the end of March, there wasn't, he was depressed, but there wasn't anything crazily significant. That's a phrase that just strikes me as like, how does a defense attorney use that relative to his client? Because he's getting ready to say that in April, there was something crazily significant about his behavior, about his demeanor, about him as a human being. So,
well, I mean, the thing about it is, too, Dr. Walla, Miss Little, I'm into true crime, you destroyed all your notes? I mean, what the hell is up with Indiana and the note destroying and the losing of the interviews and all this stuff? So we don't know what you actually said to the man, because you're just going to tell us what you remember you said to the man, because why was she allowed to destroy all her notes and that not be a violation of something, right? I don't trust her. And once she got in there and began treating him and began medicating him, the attorneys saw a difference in him. The confessions began to come. The crazy talk and all the different confessions were happening. The things described that Rick Allen was doing to himself. It's insane. I've never seen a case like this one.
Well, there's probably a reason why she's not employed by that subcontractor anymore, and why she's not practicing in the state of Indiana anymore. She's in Chicago. She's probably just practicing in the state of Illinois, and probably
violated all kinds of things, especially going into a Facebook group and talking about your client, and then talking to your client about going into the Facebook groups. I mean,
maybe she's in here now. Maybe she's in here now. Hi, Dr. Walla.
Walla, as a psychiatrist and me as a curiosity person, I'd like to interview and ask, what about it that you thought was okay? Like, you thought you could compartmentalize and keep it separate, but why go in and talk to Rick Allen about it? That's a legit conversation I'd love to have. So if you're interested, shoot me an email.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, guys, I think we're going to wrap it up for today. That was a good interview. And good talking points to discuss, with the case moving forward. And well, of course, we're going to keep our eye on all these appeals processes that go on and throughout the case. Hey, Walla, are you in here, babe? Yeah, Kelt needs to know, because Kelt's got our back. Excuse me. Anyway, again, thanks all of you guys for coming in and tuning in, because we really do appreciate it, because this community could not continue to grow without you. The warm welcome we've gotten from you guys it's been amazing, and we do talk about it, and we do appreciate it. We honestly do. Every time we see that, we've gotten 80 to 100 views on a show, we're like, dang, people are chilling with us. So we appreciate it. And we feel like we're building a great little community here. And like I said, we are growing and for the future. And this is really just I wanted to talk about this interview, of course, and we're still watching Bob's interviews. But going forward, the morning show will be a little earlier than 10 a.m., 8 or 9. If you guys have I'm on Central Time, so keep that in mind. If I go 8 a.m., which is fine with me, I'm on Central Time as I do that. Leave us some comments in the comment section on anything, times, suggestions of what you want going forward. But yeah, the morning show is going to be kind of like touching on a bunch of different topics. We won't spend a terrible amount of time on too many of them. It just depends. Nothing's scripted. The conversation is just going to flow, but we will kind of touch on things in the mornings that are like trending in the true crime community and in the news and things of that nature. Just a different type of show. And then of course we'll continue to have our deep dive shows and document shows and all of that.
I had two brothers that live out north of LA that had to evacuate their homes from the fires. So that's talk worthy. That's in the news.
It is, and I do want to talk about that too, because I don't know if you're still in here, Danger, but our other mod in here, Danger, he lives out there as well. I did check in with him yesterday. He's okay. He did have to evacuate, and then he went back home, and as far as I know, everything's okay still. So we'll get another update from him as well. And Joe, you keep us. Let your family know we're thinking of them, because that's got to be so rough. I mean, I think I get hurricanes, I mean, we don't get the wildfires, but every region has their thing, those wildfires.
Yeah, I lived in Southern California for 3 years, and it was wildfires. I was out there for the witch fire of 2007, and that was crazy enough. Like the San Diego Chargers football team was like wearing masks to go to practice and stuff like that, and and I was wearing masks, but it's a different thing. Plus they have high taxes, Plus, they have a lot of crime, so that's why I'm not there anymore.
Yeah. Well, still, I'm sure all of us can feel for people in the situation, because whether you
Yeah,
experience hurricanes, fires, tornadoes, flood, whatever it goes, snowstorms, the blizzards. Speaking of, my God, I think people are having like some blizzards, and I think Nashville, Tennessee was supposed to get a bunch of snow today, but I'm in Florida, and y'all can take back your cold weather because I don't want it. I'm freezing. It has been cold here for 3 days. Like, we can barely get out of the 50s in the daytime. At night, it's been like freezing or below, and I'm like, oh hell no, can't. I can't even sit outside and enjoy an hour. I'm like, oh look, the sun is out, and this the other day finally they got sunshine. I was like, oh yes. I go out there and I'm sitting there for like 5 minutes, and I'm like, man, it's cold out here. This is not cool. I got to get at least an hour of outside time in per day, or I don't feel right.
yeah. I've got a vitamin D deficiency, so I need to go get me
Yeah,
some sunshine, like right about now. This is a
I
good time
do.
to
I
do
love to sit outside in the morning with my coffee. In the evening, you might catch me outside all the time. If I could take my computer outside with me, I'd probably stream from outside. But anyway, it's raining right
it.
now and cold, so it wouldn't work out today. So, but yeah, guys. So and again, thank you for all your viewerships, because it helped me reach the goal. I really didn't think of it as a goal, as I really never thought about it, but I was monetized by YouTube. So I finally, after some thought, I went ahead and accepted it, and we're going to see how that works. Because anything does help support the channel going forward. But I want to give some things to the ones who are members. So we're going to have some members only live streams that will be coming up. And they'll pertain to cases we're deep diving. Like if there's some specifics on Delphi we want to get into, and we want to do just some members only with that, we're going to do that. You know what I mean? Just to give us a little better, a community feel. And anytime you guys want to chime in, chime in. So again, let us know in the comments of anything you guys want to know. And if you're a member, you got access to the members community tab on the YouTube page. But again, you don't have to join. Just being here and subscribing is more than enough. But again, you guys, I dropped Joe's link in the channel earlier. If you saw it, go make sure you're subbed up to Joe. I think most of you are. Hit the like button, please. It helps out a lot, and I appreciate it. Just you guys watching is amazing.
Yes, appreciate all of you very much.
Joe, you going to be getting together another show soon on Valo? Another update?
Yeah,
We have
yeah, I think so.
did
Yeah,
she have a hearing?
yes, she
Yeah.
has or had a hearing out here at Maricopa Superior Court today.
Yeah.
Fox 10 should be dropping a link to that video. We should probably check it out.
Yeah, let us, for sure. I want to keep up with that. And I know that there is, let's see, where's my cheat sheet at? Because I have it. Because I'm thinking about streaming this one. I've never streamed a hearing or any trials yet, but that all will be changing this year. That's my Delphi cheat sheet. Haha, where's my Idaho? Looks like we have a motion hearing on the 23rd in the Brian Koberger case. That's the next thing up on the docket. So I know we'll be live that day to see what happens with that. And I think that's the hearing where the subpoena came in, where they are demanding whoever it is show up and bring their documentation. So maybe we'll find out more during that hearing.
Ooh, that sounds intriguing.
Yeah, because like the one hearing they had, I forget which hearing it was, I want to review that hearing. We're going to do a Koberger stream one evening so we can kind of take a few hour deep dive. But anyway, we were all kind of surprised when they brought in Detective Mowry and Detective Payne. We're like, holy shit, these guys are testifying already. We're not at trial. And then they also interviewed Cy Ray. And I want to re-listen to that as well. Not interviewed Cy Ray, but he testified at the hearing. So a lot of things there coming up that we'll be covering in the Idaho case as well. And like I said, some exciting things lined up for the members. So again, we do appreciate you guys and coming in for today. And we'll be launching the morning show probably in the morning. at the normal time with like what would be the normal content. If it's not in the morning, it will be tomorrow's. You know what? Is it Friday already?
It is Friday. Tomorrow's Saturday morning already.
Okay, I've been off all week. The kids here just went back to school, but they didn't go back till like Tuesday. Like didn't start on Monday. Gonna make them go back on a Tuesday, which has kind of just thrown me off all week for some reason. So I'll let you guys know when we're going to do it. I'll get with Joe and make sure our schedules jive. All right, guys. Well, you guys have a great rest of your day. For those of you tune in tonight to Defense Diaries, or no, not tonight, Joe. You said he's going to do it next week.
Yep, it's next week.
Okay.
The part two of the interview with Rosie is next week, I believe.
Yes, it is. Okay, so he's already did one episode with Jennifer Auger, which is the lady we've been watching here in this interview. I'm sorry if I didn't introduce who you guys were looking at. I think most of you know. So that was Jennifer, and he did.
Oh, the Royal We. Who's on with the Lawyer Lee tonight? Royal We. We definitely want to check that out.
I think that she's got one of the.
Definitely one of the defense attorneys.
One of the two male attorneys. Yeah, one of the attorneys. I forgot about that. That's going to be tonight, Royal? Okay, 7
p.m.
Eastern. Let me grab her link and drop real quick for you guys because I love Lawyer Lee.
Yeah, I got to meet her and hang out with her and discuss the case with her in Delphi, and that was freaking awesome.
Oh, like I said, I've been following her for a long time because she does a lot of content on the Crystal Rogers case, a case I love. So I
totally fanboyed it. I'm like, I'm such a huge fan.
Let's get her link in there. Let's see. Let me go look and see what her thing says for tonight real quick. I was just there. I guess I should have looked. Lawyer Lee. Let's see what she's got.
I am a geek.
She doesn't have one line.
Thanks for recognizing me as a geek. I am.
Oh, wait. Was it going to be just a video and not a live? I don't really see her.
Oh, that's a good question.
I don't see anything that she has. Let me see if her community post might say. Oh, here we go. Friday night's live stream is an absolute can't miss. I sit down for a no-holds-barred interview of Richard Allen's defense attorneys. She's got a picture of all three of them. I'll be asking the burning questions we've all been wondering about. See you at 7. We'll be there.
Yep.
I'll be there. We'll be there.
Yep.
We'll be there taking notes, guys, and maybe we'll be having a stream tomorrow to talk about that. We'll see. There's a lot of good things to talk about.
Gosh darn, Delphi takes up so much time though. Like we can turn and we do turn like a 6-minute interview into like a 3-hour live stream because we have to stop like every 10 seconds.
That's okay. So that's why we do this. So we can actually have that, to talk. It's one thing to sit at home and watch the things and consume it, but then you look around the room if you're like me. Because nobody in my world cares about my true crime stuff, especially my son. But I look around, I'm like, "Who can you hear this?" And I'm like, "Wait, there's no one here to talk to about this. Let me call Joe, or let's go online and have a conversation, Joe. Let's go see what the community thinks about this, because we're just like you guys. We're true crime buffs that can critically think and think for ourselves, and we want to know all the business. And let's talk about it. So we appreciate it. Again, if you guys weren't here, we'd just be talking to ourselves, and that's okay. All right, guys, I'm going to let you guys get out of here for the day. Thanks for hanging out with us, and we will see you guys again real soon.
Catch y'all later.
Bye.
Be well.
Okay.